Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Council's Tuesday, November 30th session. We do not have any presentations today, so we can begin with general business. Madam Clerk, could you please share our announcements, agenda changes, or petitions?
Yes, good morning. There are two announcements. The Council is seeking applicants for the Board of Appeals. The application deadline is December 3rd, 2021 at 5 p.m. And the other announcement is that the Council will hold a public hearing on special appropriation to the county government's FY22 capital budget and amendment to the FY21-26 capital improvements program, Department of General Services, $3,600,000 for council office building renovations on December 7th, 2021 at 1:30 p.m. The council has not received any petitions this morning, Mr. President. That is all.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And colleagues, there are no minutes for approval this week, oddly enough. So now we can move on to our scheduled discussion on economic development. I'll just give a few opening remarks and then introduce our first panel. Back in 2019, pre-pandemic, then President Navarro proposed and the Council passed a framework that prioritizes and shapes our approach to economic development. Resolution 19-300 established the economic development platform for Montgomery County. The resolution establishes a four-pillar economic development platform that is business-friendly and leverages our assets through continued investments. The desired outcomes of the platform are: 1, a thriving and diversified economy; 2, racial equity and social justice; 3, greater innovation; and 4, environmental sustainability. So I've asked for this to be added to the Council website so our administration and our great partners can update their work against our goals and so the public can track our progress. It's clear that the county has not met the goals established in that resolution, and we have long had serious challenges in this area, which is why I'm glad you all are willing to come together today. Even before the pandemic, in the midst of a national economic expansion, Montgomery County was the only large jurisdiction in our region that was losing jobs. And then during the pandemic, we lost 15,000 more jobs, and those who lost their jobs were disproportionately women and people of color who are disproportionately represented in so many of the industries that were hammered the hardest by the recession: our restaurants, our retail, childcare, nonprofits, and other industries. I believe we need to get a handle on this. We can't do everything in one day, but in the Council's continued efforts to prioritize our economic development, we've brought together two panels today to discuss the opportunities and the challenges facing our economy and to allow our administration to discuss their economic development strategy as well. The last 20 months have been difficult and unpredictable. The pandemic not only created a public health crisis, it created an economic crisis that will have long-term effects on our economy and our businesses. At the height of the pandemic, the first special appropriation the Council passed was to establish business assistance grants. Fast forward to today, the Council has now approved 30 special appropriations to put over $260 million on the street in rental relief and eviction prevention, small business grants, not just to restaurants, but hospitality industry, arts and nonprofits, and additional grants to help small businesses purchase teleworking equipment, to help our local businesses and many other services to mitigate the effects of the recession. And at the end of the day, the county appropriated $80 million to help our business community. While it's great to see businesses open their doors again, it's still a struggle for many businesses to keep their doors open. We hear that not only from business owners and their advocates, but it's reflected in several of the recently released economic development reports that point out the challenges Montgomery County is facing. So our first panel discussion is an opportunity for the Council to hear from some consumers of our services, business owners and advocates themselves, about the challenges and the opportunities they face here in the county. And then the second panel discussion will be an opportunity to hear what the county is doing to respond to the challenges raised by the business community and its plan to create a robust economy. I'm thankful for all the panelists. It's unfortunate the county executive declined our invitation to join us today. In his absence, we have Chief Administrative Officer Rich Madalino, welcome to Rich, and other executive branch officials who can elaborate on their plans. I want to thank Gene Smith on our central staff and Julio Murillo in my office for their work pulling together today's discussion, and I'll pass it to Mr. Smith to provide some more information on our panelists and the format of discussion. Gene?
Thank you, Council President. Since we started a little late, I'll be very quick. As you've already shared, there are two panels for the Council, and we'll do each one at a time to provide enough time for your colleagues to ask questions. And so The council president will moderate each panel, providing opportunities to answer prepared questions that were shared with the panelists prior to this conversation. And then following the prepared questions, which are brief, the council president will open up to his colleagues for additional questions or comments related to both panels. As the council president noted, panel one will focus on the challenges and opportunities facing our consumers, the businesses and business owners in the county. And panel two will focus on some of the broader economic themes in our county. So with that, Mr. President, I'll turn it back over to you to moderate with panel one and invite them to introduce themselves.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I got a couple requests from my colleagues. Let me call on first the chair of the Fed Economic Development Committee, Mr. Reamer.
Thanks, sir. I was suggesting I would wait for after the presentations when it's time for other council members to speak. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Councilmember Navarro, that's you too? Great. All right. We got a list going. Okay. Thank you all again for being here this morning. After those of you on the first panel introduce yourselves and your business and organization, I would just ask you to take a few minutes to answer the following two questions. What are the challenges that you know businesses are facing to grow or operate in Montgomery County? And what letter grade would you give the county in our efforts to respond to the needs of businesses? First is Cherie Branson, the third, a stranger to no one, former council member Branson, and the third vice president of the NAACP.
Good morning. As you said, I'm Cherie Branson, third vice president for the NAACP. And let me just say that, I think the county has done well when it comes to the emergency assistance that's been necessary during the pandemic. However, I think the county has not done very well when it comes to developing the kind of holistic economic development approach that I think is necessary to actually move the county forward, particularly for minority and women-owned businesses. The county has focused a great deal of effort in certain sectors, health, IT, etc. But it has not, and really, frankly, has been sort of conspicuously absent from the kind of businesses that a lot of people, especially those individuals who do not have access to a great deal of capital, or who do not have the kind of industry entree that's maybe necessary to succeed on a large scale. So, and I'm specifically talking about restaurants and retail in this county. We can, you can look at economic development as, like what I think we're doing is sort of trickle down, create big jobs for big people, and hope the rest catch up. I think what we need to start doing is trickle up, and trickle middle, and that is really what we are not doing. But again, I think the county has really done well in its efforts to save businesses during the pandemic, because it's been a daunting challenge that no one could have foreseen. I personally would suggest that one way to get to the trickle down and trickle middle would be a trickle up and trickle middle. The way we support businesses who may not be in those popular sectors that everybody's trying to attract, but who actually serve people on a in-person level, would be to create a system that reorganizes the incubators that we have, and to develop a minority business incubator. I think that will provide a great deal of opportunity and interaction for networking, and for the other kinds of supports that will be necessary for some of these businesses to get off the ground, stay off the ground, and actually stay in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Branson. And what letter grade would you give the county?
Emergency B+, non-emergency, C-. And I used to be a teacher a long time ago, so this is not graded on a curve, okay?
All right. Good. Okay. Thank you so much. Ms. Davis, Valerie Davis, I'm sorry, you can introduce yourself. We're so glad you're with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, council members, Council President Hucker, for inviting me into what I call rarefied space to share my truth about being a business owner in Montgomery County. I run several businesses. I take a shotgun approach to life, excuse the gun metaphor, but I don't just have one target to shoot as a Black woman who is trying to raise a Black girl in this world. So this idea that we have a stick with one thing and make it work, whether it's one business or two, it's not how Black women live. So when I say I run more than one business, I do, and I run them well. But here's my grade for the county. My first answer to that question is it depends on where you sit, right? And the grades are different depending on where you sit. If I'm grading overall for all the business sector in Montgomery County, whether it's emergency or non-emergency support or response, I would give the county a C. If I'm grading from the perspective of a Black business owner or a woman business owner, or better yet, a Black and female business owner, we're in the D- category. And the challenges are, I would put into two major buckets. One is that we're stuck on representation. We're stuck on this idea that when we put people in leadership positions for any area, whether it's economic development or school or whatever it is, and they've got the right skin tone, that they somehow have the right mindset. And that's not true. That's a surface level approach to doing equity work. So we're stuck on representation, even in the way that we measure. When we talk about minority, we're focused on numbers. Who's got the most numbers? When we focus on Black versus Asian versus Latino, we're focused on where they come from or what their skin tone is. The exact thing we don't want to focus on. We need to focus on disenfranchisement. Go measure it, go find it, and call it what it is, right? That's where equity work starts. So we reject this idea that we stay on the surface of representation, even in the way that we approach the work, and we measure. And then the second thing is that we're not, the grades are low because we don't have an understanding of who we're trying to serve. When I got together with 9 other Black women in August of last year, and we were just out of our minds about how many Black people were sick and dying from COVID, and said, we're going to start something. We're going to do something. Health work, right? For Black and Latino communities. We didn't have dollars. We didn't have people. We were all working on their jobs. We had families. We were burying people. And I ran first to my own county. And I said, surely my county will have open doors for women who are displaced out of many and back at home doing remote instruction, but are getting together to solve problems around COVID when our communities are disproportionately affected. And I found it easier to do business with the federal government. Our first contract was with the Department of Transportation, with a northern county in the state of Maryland, and even the state, Maryland Department of Health, than it was to penetrate Montgomery County, where I live. And have lived since the 70s and have grown up here. And I have a law degree and an MBA, and I speak English as my first language. All things that are supposed to make it easy to navigate, they are not. So the second thing is the lack of understanding of who it is that we're supposed to be serving, and then making what is available with our taxpayer funded dollars available in the way that we need it to show up, right? So integrating, for example, education with business ownership. We can't, on the one hand, wring our hands decade after decade about the achievement gap, which is now a chasm, and then invest in businesses that require that people have technology skills. We're not going to get there, and we're specifically not going to get there with so-called communities of color, or what I call disenfranchised communities. We have to integrate what we're doing in education with economic development, so that the pipeline is full of those who can and want to prosper in the ways that they are talented to do so. In In the 70s, when my family moved here, this county was 94.5% white. Just let that sink in. Because the third thing we lack is a common context for where Montgomery has been and how far we really haven't gone. So this is in one lifetime, my lifetime, 94.5% white. And my sisters and I walking through Kent Mill would get asked if we were lost, because little Black girls aren't supposed to live in Kent Mill. You must be looking for a bus to take you back to DC. I'm not lying. So if in one lifetime, we had a county that was really what I'll call lily white, we can't expect that structurally, individually, or collectively, we've revolutionized anything beyond representation and many first steps in the right direction. So that's where my D comes from. A specific example I'll give you is we want to do universal pre-K, but I live in a neighborhood with a woman who tried to help her childcare business, Black female business owner, survive during COVID, and it went out of business. She's now runs a t-shirt business out of her home, and she has an infant who was in that childcare service. So she lost her own revenue stream. She's trying to rebuild. We won't reach her with any of the programs you're talking about. We don't reach my business that started in COVID. We're now 2 years in, but the COVID response projects and support are for those who were in business pre-COVID. There's this gap. So we're not integrating and really understanding who we're talking about. We don't even have numbers and data. So unfortunately, my C's and my D's stand, but I'm here for it, Councilmember Hooker. I'm here to do the work. Thank you for the opportunity.
Appreciate that so much. Thank you for being here. Okay, Natalia Luis is here from Mbe and Wbe Construction.
Hi, Tom. Thanks so much. And thank you to the entire council for putting this together. This is just absolutely wonderful. So I wanted to start off with, I'm Natalia Lewis. I'm co-CEO of Mbe Lewis Construction and Mbe Lewis Products. We're a road contractor in Montgomery County and very proudly help repair our roads and have been doing that for a couple of decades. We're also one of 2 asphalt manufacturers in the county and an aggregate recycler for the millings that come off our streets. So pretty green contractor. I wanted to start with, first of all, just stating the fact that having been in the county for a few decades now, 3 decades working, well, 3.5 decades working in the county, I'd just like to state that as an overall general statement, I really appreciate that leadership in the county over all of these years has always left me with a sense of genuine deep care. And today's programming is an example of that. I believe that the county has an extraordinary ability to attract people who deeply care about it and want to really make a difference. And I think that's the start of good work, right? The beginning is the most important work, and I believe that's fundamental. And I'd like to thank the county for generally paying its bills on time. As a result, you tend to get the most competitive pricing of any of the jurisdictions that I work in because you do pay your bills on time. That is not by accident. I'm sure that's been some of a decision, a strategic decision that you've made, and I can assure you it is paying off for you. Speaking in terms of the challenges that we have faced, again, this is over, the last couple of decades that we see continual challenges. It really is with the funding for maintenance of current infrastructure. Over the years, in general, we've seen a decline in funding for actual maintenance needs, at least on the contracts that I've been on. And I continually see a huge stress factor between what the department can spend, which has been allocated to the roads I've been working on, and what we can operationally do to both extend the life of the road as well as the quantity of the coverage that we can get. Of course, that stress component in the equation is always going to exist, but I see it more and more and more. And I see the degradations of our roads come into a further collapse because even though it looks like a lot of money, because of the way that the state of the roads are in, it doesn't go a long way and it gets used really fast. The second challenge that I see is the inconsistent flow of money at the beginning of every fiscal year. So I think the county does a good job by getting economies of scale, learned economies of scale, and therefore better unit prices by having multi-year contracts. There's good and bad to that. But I think overall, the county gets a better economic outcome as a result of that. That said, contractors can't rely on the reliable funding. It might be, I might have a $5 million contract one year. That same contract might go down to $2 million the next year. That contract might go down to $3 million the year after that. So it is very hard for a contractor to be able to really count on that funding. The problem with that is the fixed cost allocation for people in my industry is huge, both from capital utilization, but as well as human resource utilization. And it always puts us in a pretty terrible bind. Add to that the fact that when there are surplus dollars, they tend to only be approved towards the end of May, mid to end May. By the time that happens, it's really too late for us to make any kind of dent in the work. And what ends up happening is it creates a feast or famine situation. And if there were any way of both stabilizing the money flow, but also the money amount, but also the distribution of that money, I think that it would remove a lot of heartache and difficulty and pressure off of the industry. The second thing I'd like to add is on the challenge of Mbe and Wbe contractors. I think that we've made progress in that we've started requiring bids to actually name Mbes and Wbes. I think that is progress compared to other jurisdictions. We are way behind though. We've got a lot of work to do. First of all, it shouldn't just be a general guideline after the fact and, kind of a have faith effort entry into these contracts. It really should be a mandatory goal that has the same levers as other requirements in the contract. I think if you're looking to create and foster economic flourishing of minority and women-owned businesses in the county, you really have to put some meat on bones. And I also think that Montgomery County should follow state and federal protocols and allow self-performance to count. Now, mind you, I'm an Mbe, Wbe general contractor in the county. Would I benefit from that? Yes. So let's take that off the table. I'm one of the few that would actually benefit from that in a way that people might feel a little consternation about. And the state and the federal government have gone through this and have decided that for the few that get a little more benefit, there are so many more that get so much more benefit. And here's why. When you allow self-performance, you allow every single Mbe and Wbe to be able to perform their own work and get counted for that work. Just because they're a GC doesn't mean they're any less Mbe and any less Wbe. They face the exact same challenges as everyone else. When you allow that self-performance, they're able to keep more work within their wheelhouse and be able to mitigate their cost structure in a way that allows them to incrementally, by a little bit, grow just a little bit more. GCs should have to subcontract out to Mbes and Wbes if we really want to create an overall economic portfolio that is representative of every member and resident of the county. And we should become more stringent on those obligations if we really want to see more work come through our Mbe and Wbe ecosystem. And just like any other ecosystem, once MBEs and WBEs are able to get more work, and allowing them to self-perform allows them to become more competitive, then they naturally will also subcontract to more MBEs and WBEs. It just flows. You create a more robust environment. And I think that's important. So on the notion of, do I believe that Montgomery County and the divisions that I work with has the best, most well-intentioned, active leadership? Yes, you get an A for that. I think your intentionality is excellent. For the funding and flow, I would say a B-. There's so much work to be done with that. And the hiccups that occur due to those undulations are real hardship. As far as DME, I'm giving you a B, because although we've made progress, significant progress in the last couple of years, there's still a lot to go, but I think the great intentionality is there. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. I like the elaborated report card. This is great. Next, Mr. Stan Martin, the Executive Vice President of O'Connell and Lawrence, and I know an officer of the Montgomery County Small Business Association as well.
Yes, hi. Good morning. Thank you, Council President Hucker. I appreciate you and all of the council having me and all of us here today to discuss these issues. As you mentioned, I'm actually here on behalf of Ken O'Connell, who had a previous engagement and couldn't make it. And Ken is the president of our firm, O'Connell and Lawrence, engineering consulting firm here in Montgomery County. And he is also the president of the Montgomery County Small Business Association, of which I am a board member. So I'm here kind of on two fronts. But so he apologizes for not being able to make it. But so as some of you are aware, the Montgomery County Small Business Association is in its third year, about to enter its fourth year here in Montgomery County. And our focus has primarily been on, as Ken would say, three primary factors: Montgomery County local small businesses, Montgomery County local small businesses, and Montgomery County local small businesses. And a lot of you have actually been very supportive, and most of you, if not all of you, in coming to our events and speaking at our engagements and reaching out to the local small business community. So, you know, some of the challenges that a lot of our members had faced and things that have been addressed at length over these 3 to 4 years were some of the procurement processes going on with the county when we had first organized and started this association. Some of the issues involved some transparency, difficulty for small businesses without the resources to actually navigate the processes for procurement, and that surrounding jurisdictions have and had stronger local small business policies or local business policies, stronger policies than Montgomery County had. So in terms of the county's efforts to address some of those issues, we would have to give some pretty high marks to the county in its attempts to actually address those issues. As I mentioned, a number of the county council and the county executive and representatives from the county executive's administration have been actively involved with our organization, coming to speak to our organization and the members thereof, and addressing the needs that were being presented by the members of our organization. For example, County Executive Elrich and Mr. Katz early on in their tenure went around and did the community for business roundtables, reaching out to the local small business community and the local business community to hear their concerns and attempt to address them. And since those meetings, in addition, procurement held some open houses and workshops to address the procurement issues. And I know Mr. Shetty has made strides, leaps and bounds to make that process a little bit more friendly for the small business community in terms of how to register, how to navigate, how to search out RFPs and IFBs that are put out by the Office of Procurement and the various departments in Montgomery County. And we sincerely appreciate the county as a whole listening to those concerns, addressing those concerns, and implementing the changes or attempting to implement changes that would address those concerns. And in addition, the council has passed a number of bills to address some of those concerns. For instance, the preference points bill that was introduced and passed to kind of compete with the surrounding jurisdictions' policies that were more favorable to the surrounding jurisdictions' businesses. In addition, Councilmember Jawando's bill to increase the percentages for RFPs and IFBs that need, or RFPs specifically, that need to go to local small businesses. And we supported those initiatives. We worked with a lot of you on those initiatives, and we appreciate that support. So I would agree with some of the speakers that have already spoken with regard to the county's efforts in those regards to address those concerns. And if I have to put it down in terms of a grade, I was never a teacher, but I would say that there are B's across the board. One improvement that might be made is now having implemented these policies and this legislation to assist local small businesses and local businesses here in Montgomery County. There may be some room for improvement in enforcing those bills and those policies, and then being transparent with the data surrounding that enforcement, and that's where I would put things. And again, thank you for having us to discuss this today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Martin. Next is Javier Solis from Toros, Texas.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Javier Solis. I'm the founder of the first Latino franchise of income tax preparation in the U.S. And now we are the largest Latino franchise of any industry. It sounds big, but we are not. We're still a small business with only 200 units nationwide, when the three largest franchises have over 20,000 units. Thank you for putting this together, to all city county council members. And this is something that should be done on a bi-monthly basis, maybe quarterly, to listen to all the business owners. Unfortunately, the perception that Montgomery County is not a business-friendly county is still there. Okay, it has been a promise from many elected officials that this will change. It has not. And as a small business owner in Wheaton, my only source of frustration has been Councilwoman Navarro, and I thank you in front of everybody for always being there, for always responding to all my concerns. Your staff is awesome. But I don't think it really has to do with you as a council members, county members, and even with at the executive level, because it has to do with the culture of the county in terms of how the staff serves small businesses. It has not changed. It doesn't matter how much you want to provide good services to all small businesses in Montgomery County. when the staff that is supposed to really work and it's leading all the departments have already the same culture from so many years that what they've been doing, it's okay. That what if they try to help a business and they delay with a bureaucratic process, it's okay. Okay, why? Because they've been doing it for so many years and there is no need to change that. So I understand the desire, I guess, to change many things at the city council member level, but the changes have to be done with the culture and clean house. Okay, you really need to start cleaning house and put people that are committed to small businesses focused on minorities. And when I say minorities, I'm not just talking about the Black business owner. I'm really talking about Latinos that have been set aside and have not been counted as part of the minority assistance to businesses in Montgomery County. Over 20% of residents in Montgomery County are Latinos. Okay, the excuse that Latinos don't vote should not be something that people use not to address the issues that we as Latino faced in the county. Okay, the grade, honestly, and I agree with many of the other panelists. It's about because the commitment from the staff, and again, it has nothing to do with you as elected officials, because you could hear us, you could have sessions with our small business owners to see what our concerns are, but changes need to be done at the city council, at the departments level that serve small businesses. I am the co-founder of the Montgomery County Latino Restaurants Association. And we did that association during the pandemic because they did not have access to the different policies that the county was implementing for the restaurants. You know, they were the industry that was affected most during the pandemic, and they were blind because the policies was introduced and approved and sent to the department in charge of that policy, but it was not sent to the business owner that actually affect the policy. Okay, so the communication is not there from the other departments. And the other thing is that for some reason, and I guess it's part of the same culture, there is no an accountability system to actually hold staff from the different departments, you know, whenever it's related to the business services. We talk about health department with businesses, with the permits that they need to get, and all these departments, they need to be held accountable. And I'm sure that there is no accountability system for any of the people that are out there serving the businesses. So I welcome another of these events, not only when we are in the middle of campaign for elections, but also when we are passed over the campaign and the elections, and do this at least quarterly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Solis. Okay, and last we have former Delegate Herman Taylor, President of the Minority Business Economic Council. Welcome. Welcome, Herman.
Oh, great. Thank you. Great morning, everyone. And thank you again, Council President Hucker. It's so great to be with all of you today. Again, my name is Herman Taylor, and I am the president of the Minority Business Economic Council, often referred to as the Mcdc, or some refers as Mbe. Again, I'm delighted to be among you, among friends here, all on the panel, and as well as, of course, on the council to share my perspective on building a more inclusive economy for all. Again, I know we have so many heroes on this council, so many people I've had the pleasure to work with for the past 2 decades or so, and it's just a pleasure to work beside so many of you and fight for a cause that what we're trying to do to benefit minority enterprises. And so got to give a shout out to my my crew, people I work with so much, Member Rice and Navarro and Katz, and of course, again, my dear friend, Council President Hooker. A little bit before I go into some remarks and perspective, again, I want to share, let me tell you a little about the Mbe. I'm proud to represent one of Maryland's leading business organizations that support the interests of minority entrepreneurs. We have a long history in Maryland of working to advance racial equality through public policy that relates to government procurement practices. We support the economic development among minority enterprises, and we work hard to facilitate their success through advocacy, education, and developing and resourcing contracting opportunities. In a broader context, we just want to improve local communities and society at large. Just like so many corporate partners we work with, we hold dear some of the things and elements that makes up our mission and our cause. Some of you all know I take my work very seriously, personally, too, because again, just like our government and corporate partners in particular, we are engaged citizens that, community members that really have a vision for a better tomorrow, and we have a plan to make our vision a reality. So we must do a better job when we talk about economic development. We have to do a better job in the area of inclusion, and especially doing what we claim we care about the most. There's a lot of Black companies, Black business, and minority businesses that are being excluded from this local economy, and they're losing out on billions, and may I even say trillions when you look at this DC area, in spending, in particularly on government contracting. This hurts our communities, our competitiveness. It hinders our progress in creating wealth and traditionally or historically excluded communities. It creates abnormal high unemployment levels in these communities, prevents housing opportunities from occurring, and just overall, general entrepreneurialism. It really adversely affects neighborhoods in terms of not having opportunities to participate in the economy. Just numerous things. And, as it's been alluded to in the discussion today, even though it's been great efforts on this council and by so many elected members in this county we work with, practices that are existing in this county today is really eroding the level of public trust in government agencies and elected officials. And again, this lack of minority participation, even worse, in these communities creates a breeding ground for activities that we don't want. And again, it just prevents our communities from flourishing. So this discussion today is really important because, and kudos again to CP Hooker for having this discussion to talk about the procurement policies and practices that support our economy and the people and the businesses that drive it. Couldn't be higher on, I know, the council's agenda, and especially from the community perspective, our agenda. But we must, again, as it's been said today, have a frank discussion on our current economic system locally and what it does deliver and what it doesn't deliver, and moreover, to whom. In 2014, this council somewhat hired me to, or 2015 rather, to review the disparity study and to lead a task force. And in the disparity study, before we led this task force in 2015, it concluded that the report stated that the county's procurement practices were discriminatory. The contractor, because they were of course paid by the county government, defined the activities of the procurement department or the county government as discrimination, but called it passive. And I guess it's a way to say, well, it wasn't intentional. It wasn't on purpose. The county, when you look at maybe what passive means, the county may have been involved in impeding, but not intentionally, minority contractors from participating in government public contracting. So in 2015, again, the county asked, got a panel together, a task force, and we took a year, and I played the role as chair on this very important task force to explore the procurement practices for an entire year and report back to the county council on recommendations for improving and becoming more inclusive. One caveat I asked is if you appoint me to lead it, please let's make sure something is done. Nothing was done with that, the study that we did of study in the study from 2014. None of the recommendations were implemented. In 2006, the Mcdc was hired to work on best practices for minority businesses in terms of the county, on the county's behalf, in terms of best practices for outreach, and we did that. Then we performed actual outreach for the county back in 2016 and put on procurement conferences, which no longer exist today. Nonetheless, despite all these efforts and numerous other efforts, questions remain about how the Montgomery County is going to achieve a more progressive procurement practice policy, because one of the issues I find with the county is that one of the most democratic and of course socially progressive areas in the nation, but it's operationally conservative. And that's an area that really needs to change. As I kind of wrap up here, some of the concerns, ongoing concerns, is not just with Montgomery County government procurement practices, but even the outset of things such as the purple line has been a problem. There was only 3 African-American contractors that in the last contract that participated from Montgomery County, at least Black contractors that participated, and that's an issue that really needs to be addressed. And I would ask this county council to send a letter to the secretary asking that this new contract not be submitted until there is more of an agreement for inclusion. Again, thank you for having me here. I look forward to answering questions and participating further in this discussion. And as far as the grade, I would, give the county a low grade in terms of economic inclusion among minority businesses. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Taylor. We're running a little behind here, so we'll try to speed it up, but we got a lot to think about and a lot to comment on from panel 2 and from my colleagues. So this is great. I got a lot of notes here. First is Chairman Reamer of the Fed Committee.
Thank you so much. I will try to be very brief, as I know we have a ways to go here. But I really appreciate what we're hearing from our small business leaders today. And I concur with the emphasis here that there's been too much talk, not enough action. I think that's just been an endemic problem. And we've had some, I think, real issues with staff turnover and focus to manage programs that are intended to help this, as well as a lack of organizational emphasis. It just hasn't been a priority. We're hearing a lot about, White Flint, but what about White Oak? I think it's just been an endemic problem in this county. I thought Ms. Branson's comments about a lack of focus on small businesses that might even include personal services is right on the money. I mean, a small business supports a family, supports a neighborhood, supports a community. It doesn't have to just be in the life sciences sector for it to have a huge impact in our community. And so at the Fed Committee, we have been working through a series of recommendations that we will be bringing to the council for action. In the theme of more action and less talk. So I'm excited about it. We recently had a panel at Fed. We worked through a number of these issues. And Councilmember Jawando and I have been devising a set of programmatic recommendations based on feedback from a number of small business leaders that we have been hearing from. So very enthusiastic about the possibilities of, for example, the repurposing the Silver Spring incubator. Ms. Branson mentioned a need for an incubator. We've got one right in downtown Silver Spring. It's underutilized, and we can make that an MBE focused incubator. We've got a request from nonprofit Montgomery to support their program to provide incubation for nonprofit businesses, which we should be supporting more. We have the need to support small businesses with procurement. It's good to hear that some of the county procedures are being looked at. We've got to do more to provide support to those businesses who want to be able to access it with procurement academies and leadership training. I want to give a big shout out to the Black Business Council. We've been hearing a number of great recommendations that they've brought to us about identifying the database of Black businesses in the county and providing support with capital formation. And I know Councilmember Jawando may speak to this, but we had a very powerful experience this year with distributing grants and identifying the need for more organizational capacity to work with local Black businesses as well. We're all supporting LEDC has been one of the highlights of our pandemic response, and at the same time, I think is showing a need for additional organizational capacity in that area. So please stay tuned for appropriation recommendations to tackle a lot of these issues, and we can move forward to actually put our money where our mouth is and get some programmatic backing to our local small businesses, which really need it, and I think have been neglected here for far too long. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you, Mr. President, and it's just such a pleasure to see all of you here today. I've been reflecting a lot on the feedback because one of the things that Mr. Solis said, I think really resonated with me. I always like to start at the macro level. And that was the reason why when I was president in 2019, many of you participated in the conversations that led to the proposal and an adoption of the economic development platform to really just have a very high level framework and talk about the guiding principles. And the council president did mention those guiding principles. The desired state for the county should be a thriving and diversified economy, that it's under the guise of racial equity and social justice based on innovation and environmental sustainability. And that's sort of the macro desired state. But then this notion of culture change seems to me the driver here that Mr. Solis identified, many of you mentioned in one way or another. Because to be totally honest and transparent, a lot of the things that I heard were things that this council has in one way or another addressed. We had the procurement task force and the minority business task force that Mr. Taylor talked about. And Mr. Taylor, some of the recommendations were indeed implemented. Some are still, there, ready to go. We've done things like the Small Business Assistance Program, which now is like a template for the Purple Line proposal that we're going to be adopting a special appropriation that really identified this notion of how do we support our small businesses when the county has initiated a redevelopment or construction project. We first tested that in Wheaton, and last time I checked, many of those businesses are still there, even though they were then hit with the pandemic. That was very difficult. When we got hit with the pandemic, this council immediately said we need to do whatever we can to support our businesses, and we made sure to include language that talked about cultural proficiency, making sure that we are paying very close attention to our minority-owned businesses and those who may have language limitations of some sort or another. Incubators, when we had the whole entire conversation about incubators, I know I was one that was very vocal about this notion of leaving behind, especially the service-oriented incubator, and not just focusing on things like biohealth or life science, which is important, but understanding that there's an entrepreneurial spirit in the county that is so extensive, and it has to do with the service industry. And so I could just rattle off a lot of the things that we have tried to do, but as Mr. Solis also pointed out, at the end of the day, it has to be implemented and there has to be accountability. So it seems to me that we still have a challenge here, which has to do about the culture in terms of accepting or understanding who we are in Montgomery County 2021, right? And that small businesses play a very important role. That is a county that is majority of color, and luckily we have an extraordinarily entrepreneurial population that contributes greatly to our economy, but it is clear that that mindset has not made it through the culture of county government, and that the council can do a lot of things. And I think we have, right? Like we literally, and I know a lot of these conversations happened during my presidency with each and every one of my colleagues, said, we're going to have to take the reins of economic development because, my goodness, we're totally being left behind. Regionally, at the Council of Governments, this is a conversation all the time. And so we can only go so far, but then it has to be implemented. Then the county executive and the administration has to take ownership and be aligned with many of these programs and special appropriations and things like that, because the council is not the one that can do that. It is the administration. And so I am so thankful that we're having this broad conversation with different elements of our business ecosystem to set the stage for what I hope will be an understanding that a culture change needs to happen, that small businesses need to be treated as what they are, which are extraordinary engines of Montgomery County's economic sustainability, and use this as an opportunity, because the pandemic, I think, has also come to show us the challenges, but also the opportunities, right? It has accelerated many changes. And so this is a really, I think, auspicious moment for the county to literally be focused on this issue, accept who we are, and then seek to use all of these assets to have a post-COVID-19 recovery that is grounded in equity, but also in prosperity. That has to be, in my opinion, the way. All of the things that we have, discussed here, whether it's procurement, there's some things that we could do, in terms of legislation, which I'm happy to also work with my colleagues on doing. But many of the things, as I said, are things that we've already heard before, and we put forth, but perhaps has not been at scale and hasn't had the follow through that it needs to have. So just wanted to make those comments, but truly so appreciate everyone here who has continued to contribute to our county. It is still, of course, a very desirable place to be and to do business. Sometimes I feel like it's hard to keep up with all the messaging, because on the one hand, you read about an article that says that there has been record investment in Montgomery County from companies coming in, and at the other hand, you hear that we are just not business friendly, et cetera. So we, I think, as leaders have to respond to the feedback and make sure that we change the perception as well as the reality on the ground. So once again, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your very honest feedback. And thank you, Mr. President, for putting this together.
You bet. Thanks for your leadership on this issue. Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you, Mr. President, and appreciate all the comments that have been made and all the great folks that are here. You know, it's amazing. I think Councilmember Navarro just said, you know, the messaging. I mean, I think part of the reason that's the case is because there's so many great things going on. I think if you broke out the grades, you know, I know I wasn't asked to do the grading, but I would give an A+ to our business owners, you know, to the actual people who are making it happen in the face of challenge. You know, Ms. Davis, Valerie Davis mentioned, you know, like she's got 2 or 3 businesses. She's just doing it. She's just making it happen with, or, you know, with God, actually, absolutely, or, you know, a higher power. But we have to support her. We collectively, the county, we have to support businesses like her. We always talk about, and I've always talked about, and we're all proud of, you know, that 85% of businesses that, you know, are relatively small and that make up the majority of the businesses in the county, right? We're proud of all of our business community, but that's the lifeblood of our community. And so I think despite challenges, we're a great place because of our diversity, because of our education, and things are happening. Now, does that mean we shouldn't be doing more to support? We absolutely should. And the conversation today underscores that. And I think to something that former Councilmember Branson said, for some people, we're doing great. You know, if you're a big life science biotech business or something, you're getting what you need and what you want. And we should be doing that. But it should be a balanced approach, you know, so that it's a middle out and an up. As you said, I think that's a great way to put it, so that we're having support for everyone across our business community. And I do think the council has done a lot. And I think Javier mentioned the culture, Mr. Solis. I think that's the exact right word to talk about. How do we change? And former Delegate Taylor mentioned this as well. And I'm going to take this from you, and I'm going to quote you every time. Operationally conservative. I think that is absolutely correct in every part of county government, as far as how we've just operated because of who we've changed so quickly. Ms. Davis mentioned when she was born, and I was a couple years after you, but you look younger than me. When we were born, the county was very different. And we operated differently, and we didn't have to think about these things in the same way. And the systems that were there are still largely in place. We've made progress, but they're still largely in place. And, you know, we put in this racial equity framework, thanks to Councilmember Navarro, and it's one of the first things this council voted on. But that has to become part of our DNA, and it hasn't been for too long. And so I think it's a good conversation. I do think, though, our strongest, greatest resources are small, women-owned businesses of color and our large businesses. We have a great mix. We are the envy. You know, my mom's from Hayes, Kansas. I'm telling you, they would be envious of what we have going on here. We have all the components, the federal labs. So we've got all we need. And there's a lot of good happening. But this is, for me, more of a question of potential. We are not maximizing our potential. And that's what I think we've heard today. And so, you know, as Councilmember Reamer mentioned, you know, we've been working on some things in Fed that we'll be sharing with colleagues. But I think this is a good time to have this conversation about what can we do? How do we enforce? And something Stan said, and the great work at the Small Business Association, enforcement is key. You know, when we passed the LSBRP, the Local Small Business Reserve Program, and said 30% has to go to, of our $1 billion of procurement has to go to small businesses that are local, we need to track that. And then we also, for the first time, said that the hundreds of millions of dollars in $10,000 or less contracts that go out across government, that we need 50% of that needs to go to local small businesses. So we set out a track, and I haven't seen that report. We passed that bill like 2 years ago. So the enforcement is a key part too in our oversight capacity to make sure that we are keeping on track to our economic development platform, but to the laws and the policies that we passed. I do think there's a big part of that as well. And that's part of culture change of that, not just saying we're going to do it, but actually holding ourselves to it. So last thing I'll say is this idea of growing our own and supporting middle out and not just top down. When we did the small business rent relief program, and Councilmember Hucker mentioned I'm really proud of the work that the council did to support businesses throughout the pandemic and all the money that we put out there. But, you know, I asked for this $1 million program to target to retail businesses, many of which are women-owned, people of color owned, that are struggling with rent. And LEDC, great organization, helped us administer it. It was open for a week. It was oversubscribed. But the diversity of who got those grants was not what it should have been, based on what I know to be the businesses that need that support. And, African American businesses were the lowest represented. Latinos businesses were next, Asian businesses were after that, and white business, were after that. And I just think that we have to do a better job in the culture, in the government, of getting to these groups that need this assistance or programs or procurement or whatever the product is. We have to get it to folks. It doesn't do them any good if we don't get it to folks and they don't know about it. And we have to build that institutional and structural capacity with partners inside and outside of government. And that's our responsibility to help seed that. So I look forward to talking more about that as well. But exciting conversation. Appreciate the Council President bringing it up, and look forward to hearing from the administration as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I like that. I wrote that down as well. Politically progressive and operationally conservative. That's describes Montgomery County pretty well in my experience. Three other colleagues that need to get in, but Mr. Taylor, you had a quick addition you wanted to. You texted me. You forgot something.
Yes. Oh yes. Thank you, Council President Hooker. No, I was just gonna say that. Look, listening to I wanted to let your panel, your colleagues finish, Council President Hooker, so I apologize, and I know we're short of time, but listening to Member Navarro and Member Wiljawando, it just, this is just a hard issue to address because of the endemic and systemic aspect of it, and so this is not to negate or push anyone aside in terms of their efforts being elected leaders. I know so many of you care about this issue, but I had more to say, but I think we're really short of time. But one more second, Council President, I do want to thank you for your leadership. I know your council, being president, is coming to a close, and from the community, I know you've worked with us tirelessly for this past year, and I just think I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you as your leadership reign here is coming to a close, for all that you have tried to do on our behalf. I know Montgomery County Small Business Association, I've seen how you work with them. They would say this, and certainly at the Minority Business Economic Council, we would say it too, that you have been a champion for small and minority businesses. So I think our panel is closing, so I just wanted to get that in and take a point of personal privilege to thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. That's very nice. We have a lot of leaders on this. Council member, appreciate it. Council member Katz.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you to every panel member. I really find this to be a very, very good discussion. Former council member Branson, who started this conversation off, and of course, whenever I see her, I have to think about strawberries. She told a story about strawberries one time, and I still get teary about how she had helped someone. But a key to any business is capital, and that's bottom line. If you have a dream and you have the greatest idea in the world, and for a business, but if you don't have capital, then it's not going to go anywhere, or if it does go, it's not going to go as far as it should. So that's the first thing that we need to figure out, is how we can get more and more and more capital for every business in Montgomery County to become successful. And so that's, to me, that's the beginning of the conversation. I also believe, and I can't remember who started talking about it as well, but about incubators. I think that is extremely important, that helps combine some of those capital needs. And we need accelerators. We need the next step beyond the incubators to get someone. We need to make certain that someone has the ability to grow. And that becomes a key. And I've been a champion for years that we should have shared commercial kitchens. We should have the people, someone that has the desire to open up a restaurant that doesn't have the necessary background or capital for that they could have a shared way to go about, that they could actually do their business. I mean, we see all the time, and anybody that watches the Food Channel, these food trucks. That's become a big deal. And we can make certain that we help people begin their journey, keep their journey in Montgomery County and go beyond, stay here and go beyond. But we need to make certain we're doing that. You know, it was mentioned by Mr. Martin and about the county executive and I had early on gone out and talked to people directly, especially small businesses, and to see what is and what isn't working, and all of those discussions, and the story that I know my colleagues have heard me tell it many more times than they want me to tell it, but the first day we were told that it was so difficult to do business with Montgomery County, that there was pages of hundreds of pages or many pages that someone had to fill out a document in order to do business with Montgomery County. We heard it. The next speaker on that first panel said, you know, you think that was bad? I wanted to do business with Montgomery County, and it was even worse. And so for the number of pages. But then Ash Shetty, from procurement, by the third time we had our panel discussions, the third night we went, Ash Shetty came and showed that, and I always use my hands, showed that with the thick panel for someone to do business can become a very thin panel to do business with Montgomery County. And I know that Ash and others have tried their level best to get us to a better place. And that doesn't mean that we're at the best place that we could ever be in, because we're not. But I know that they have the desire to get someone to that better place. And so one of the conversations we had was about permitting and inspectors and how people were afraid of all of this. And we need to have the good, open, honest discussions like we did in that night and those nights when the county executive and I went out. But I also have to tell you that people could come up to you after the panel and tell you, well, I didn't want to say it in public, but this is, and we need to be able to do that as well. We need to have good communications. And I agree. We need every kind of trickle we can possibly have, up, down, and in between. But candidly, we got to stop the trickles. We need a floodgate. We need to prove that our perception is not, if it were, sometimes perceptions are unfair. Maybe in this case, perception is fair, but I believe that it's not fair. I believe our perception is not fair to what we're trying to do, and I think we need a better way to communicate it. And I think that we need to continue to do that. We can't gloss over that one of the most difficult issues that we ever discuss, and we discuss some very difficult issues, but perhaps one of the most difficult issues that we discuss is how do we change our perception and how do we communicate better? And we need to do that. And I can continue on and on and on, But I believe that we not only have to create businesses, we have to retain businesses. I believe that that's a part of it. I think we need to make certain our partners in education are at the table so that when someone says, and it's a national workforce issue, that there's a labor shortage, but when someone says, I'd like to come here, but I don't know if I can get, people to hire, that our educational partners and friends are actually there at the table to say, we'll get them for you. We'll help you get the workforce that you need and do all that. And I'll tell you what else I'm going to end on. I think we need a scorecard. I think we need to put out, weekly, monthly, that what we said we were going to do, this is the legislation we passed, and this is what we've actually done, and see if that will turn around, if that will keep people on track. But bottom line is, and I think Councilmember Navarro said, and she said many things that I agree with, obviously, but I think she said that not only do we need to change the perception, we need to make certain that the reality is there as well. So that is where I think all of you need to be our partners in every step of the way, and you are, and we need to continue to do that. So with that, Mr. President, though I would like to continue on, I will turn it back to you.
Well said, Mr. Katz. Okay, Councilmember Glass.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you for organizing this conversation, which is turned into a tough love session of sorts. And I know that we are here because we appreciate that, and we need to hear this type of feedback in order to continue doing better. And I was keeping tabs on the report card everybody was giving, and then I stopped because I was just listening. And appreciate everybody's honest assessment. And thinking about this in a different way, I know that the county over decades has put in place institutions that at various points in time served our residents and served our businesses, but I think most of them, many of them, are antiquated barriers, quite frankly. Some of the rules, some of the regulations, over the last 20 months or so, the pandemic has shown us that we can change and that we can change on a dime. And to continue Councilmember Katz's metaphor, I think we need to reduce these barriers, or in his terms, open the floodgates, quite frankly. I think that's what the times are really telling us. And during the pandemic, during the height of the pandemic last spring of 2020, I spoke with a number of our department leaders and directors about our procurement process, about other processes to get goods and services to either our businesses or not-for-profit businesses who were working overtime to make sure that our residents were healthy and safe. And we were able to cut a lot of red tape to get that help out there. And I think that we need to continue doing that. And so part of this conversation and this process is that as we build back, I'm absolutely confident that we can do it better and that we need to do it better. And that's what these conversations need to continue being about, sharing with us as we're going through the rules, the regulations, what need to be cut. What can we do here to modernize, to move us fully into the 21st century and into this post-pandemic community where things for retail might be a little tougher because of Amazon and other online retailers. So what can we do? What do we need to do? That is recognizing what we need to do better is part of the reason later today we'll be introducing nearly $250,000 to help with small businesses along the Purple Line. And I'm hopeful that as we continue doing more projects, infrastructure projects here in the county and across the state, we think of those impacts on the front end and build that into our programming, build it into the budget, and not have it be an afterthought and not have to rely on our state lawmakers in Annapolis to fight with the governor and others to get that funding where it's needed to our small businesses. I'll close on this point, this conversation. And again, thank you, Council President, for organizing it, and for all of you for spending your morning here, because I know that you could be other places working on your businesses and working on other things as well to support businesses in Montgomery County. But it was this type of public conversation that I knew that was necessary, that people were hungry for, as to why I had introduced a bill earlier this year to open up the Montgomery County Economic Development Corps and have those meetings publicized. And I just want to applaud Mr. Wu and your entire leadership team and your board for taking the initiative and for engaging in conversations with me to open up those meetings on your own, so that people who are interested in this conversation and what Montgomery County is doing and what our strategic planning is can follow those conversations at your board meetings. And so while this conversation might be a capsule in time, here at this council, it goes on, and it will be live streamed and it will be recorded. Thank you to the leadership of MCEDC. So this conversation does continue, but the information that you're sharing with us will inform future ones. And change is possible and change is necessary. And thank you all for doing your work and for sharing with us the roadmap in which we need to go. So thank you, Mr. President, and I yield back.
Thank you, Councilmember Rice.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. And I'm going to try and be brief as well. I really want to thank former Delegate Taylor, who addressed the issue around equity in our businesses. And we really need to talk about that more in a systemic approach. Councilmember Jawando brought it up as well in terms of the commitments that we've made and that haven't been tracked. But I will just tell you that I'm incredibly concerned about small businesses, primarily our small businesses that are owned by people of color in our community. And while we talk a good game about what our commitment is, we haven't done enough to undo the systemic disparities that have existed for far too long in our communities. And the reality is that every year that goes on to where we let a disparity study lapse or we don't have the data that's there means that these companies are continuing to suffer from the discrimination that has been inherently placed as a part of the system for decades. And so it really is one in which I really would like for us to take a much deeper look and a more hardline approach when it comes to making sure that we're meeting these benchmarks that we've set up, because quite honestly, the benchmarks themselves are very, very modest. They are not ones that push the envelope. They are not ones that are transformative when it comes to the change and what we really need to do to support our businesses here in Montgomery County. And so from that perspective, I just wanted to put that out there. I think that a lot of people don't want to say it and call it for what it is, but the reality is that the longer we allow the current systems in place, the more we're prolonging the racism that has continued to exist against our businesses of color for years and years and years and years and years. I'm born and raised here. And so I've seen, companies that don't do business with Montgomery County government and do businesses with other neighboring jurisdictions because they're more friendly and more accepting. And that's not okay. And if a business today in 2021 can still say that, we have so much more work that needs to be done. And so I really just hope that we're more intentional about what it is that we're doing and what it is that we're trying to achieve. And I think that you heard it from Ms. Branson, you heard it from former Delegate Taylor, and I'm sure you'll hear it from others who are just incredibly passionate about this and making sure that we can start to make a difference, start to turn the tide, and really address some of the challenges that we've seen. I don't know if Delegate Taylor wanted to weigh in on that as well, because I know he and I have had numerous conversations about this when we both served in the state legislature together, and he was leading the effort in terms of doing some of this work at the state level. But just really think that there's more to be said.
I know that, again, this panel is getting way over. Councilmember Rice, no, thank you. It's been amazing working with you, and I think your term is coming to a close, and you will be sorely missed for the work you did. Unfortunately, I could just speak with us, the tireless work you did. So your service to this council will be really missed.
Thank you. Council Vice President Albornoz.
Thank you. Somebody timed me. I'm going to do this in less than 90 seconds because we want to get to the next panel. But check-in moments are important. And so I appreciate the opportunity to have a conversation with these esteemed business leaders in our community. I've been around long enough to have had the opportunity to interact with all of you at some points and can speak in the first person about your dedication, your commitment, your resilience during these extraordinarily difficult times, and how each of you distinctly represent so much of what's good here in Montgomery County. I want to thank all of you for taking the leap to do business here in our community. And it's clear that we as a government need to do more to support you, first with regards to making it as easy as possible to do business with the county itself, but second, help create an environment that allows all of you to thrive. And I hope we'll touch on workforce development in the next conversation, because in addition to capital, my many conversations with both small, medium, and big businesses have revolved around the need to find a qualified workforce right here in our community to help take these businesses to where they would like to go. So as part of this complex ecosystem that we have here in our community, business ecosystem, that's another role that government can and should play in supporting all of our businesses here in our community. So look forward to the follow-up on all of this and appreciate the opportunity to have all of you here today.
Thank you so much. And Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you, and Council President Hucker and former Delegate Taylor. You can see the Maryland flags in the background signifying the former state delegates. Former Delegate Rice is not on video at the moment, so I imagine he's got a Maryland flag behind him as well. But appreciate really the panelists really, and Councilmember Joando noted the A+ for our business community. I think that's been true across the board. When you look at, our county's response to COVID was far from perfect. We did the best that we could in a challenging environment. The way our residents stepped up was as close to perfect as any other community in the country. And I think we should be proud of that. And I think the same is true when it comes to the way that we responded with some of the relief programs, the way we got the funding out, the way we set up the programs. We were building the plane, as we've noted, as we were flying it in the air through the most challenging environment that anybody had ever experienced. We were far from perfect. There's no doubt about that. We made a ton of mistakes along the way, but the way that businesses stepped up to change their operations overnight, to change what they were doing, and maybe even the business, frankly, that they were in, time and time again, we had businesses do what they needed to do within their business, and also to help other businesses, to help other people in the community, not necessarily to make a profit or create a job, which is the core focus of business and in its own right has real inherent value, but just to be good citizens and good neighbors and key members of our community. So I think that's really important to note. We talked a little bit today about letter grades. I'm always concerned about giving out letter grades because I think the story is in the details, but the headline becomes the story, and that's always a challenge. But I'll go back to elementary school before we had letter grades, and we did O's, S's, and N's in Montgomery County Public Schools, outstanding, satisfactory, and needs improvement. And the grade we should be getting and should be giving is N, is needs improvement. And that's always the grade we should be giving. And I think for too long in the county, we have been so good and so strong that we've rested on our laurels a little bit. And if there's a theme today, it's that we finally realize that the grade we should have been giving ourselves for quite a long time is N, is needs improvement. And rather than throwing our shoulder out of the socket, patting ourselves on the back, we should be thinking about how we can be better. And that's what businesses are doing every day, because they realize that if they're not getting better, that somebody else is going to take the customer, is going to take the investment, is going to take the business. And we haven't done that enough in county government in Montgomery County. And I'm hoping that this is part of the conversation that will help us change that, because the old way of Montgomery County always being a place where every family will want to move and every business will want to locate because of all the great assets that we have is just not going to be true forever. And we are in a regional and global competition like we've never seen before, and resting on those laurels is just no longer a winning strategy. We've got to step up our game in significant ways, maybe in ways that we've never done before, maybe in ways that we weren't always comfortable with. And the good news is, as we've been talking about today, we saw both the worst and the best during COVID in almost every aspect. And yes, we saw the problems during COVID, but we also saw the possibilities of what we could do. And we have a culture of yes. When we start at this place of what can we do, when we realize that there is a sense of urgency, that the status quo is totally unacceptable, and we're willing to change the way that we do things, we're willing to change the way that we think about things, and we're willing to actually listen to the people who are impacted by the decisions that we make, and we're willing to pivot and we're willing to fail. Because I think one of the challenges that we've always had is we're so used to excellence that we're unwilling to try things because there's a possibility that they might not work. In most businesses, you have to look at failure rates as much as success rates, because if you're not failing at all, it means you're not innovating. And most successful businesses fail all the time. And in government, we're just not set up to have a failure tolerance. And I think that needs to change. And COVID, if we can stretch that out, really did change that. We were willing to try things that we've never tried before, to think differently about things that we have never thought about before. And so, I hope that culture of yes, I hope that sense of urgency, and I hope the sober identification of some of the real shortcomings that we had and commitment to work together to solve it. I hope that continues. I'll just give one example. As we were doing all the business relief programs, starting with the public health emergency grant program and on into all the subsequent programs that we led, we realized that we had no way of communicating with businesses in Montgomery County. Zero. No way. No communication list, no email list, no phone list, nothing. And the executive branch tried hard to recreate that. The Economic Development Corporation tried, very hard to do the best that they could. We partnered with a number of business-based organizations, but that's not acceptable. And we have to fix that. And now we have an opportunity, not in the middle of a crisis, to make sure that we are always communicating with our businesses. It shouldn't be when there is a once-in-a-century, global emergency to have to reach out to our business partners. We should be reaching out to our business partners on a regular basis to figure out how we can innovate and grow our economy and create the type of wages that support the type of quality of life and services that we desperately want and need. And so, I think there's a real opportunity there. But I am proud of some of the work that we have done. The platform, economic development platform that, as Council President, Councilmember Navarro led, really set the stage for this. We institutionalized that with the Economic Development Strategic Plan, rather than having a council effort and a county executive effort and Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation effort and a number of other efforts. When you have 8 strategies, you don't have a strategy. You need to have one, and everybody needs to be working together. And so we have brought that all in under one roof. And I do think we've institutionalized it. I think that's a significant step in a positive direction. Early on in the first year of the term as well, we have the economic impact statements on every bill. So we understand the full economic impact, that economic development shouldn't be part of what we do. It has to be part of everything that we do. And we've institutionalized, that as well, to understand that business budgets make up the county's budget. And so we have to be, really sensitive to that. So I'll just close and say, the panel here has been really helpful and instructive to not only give good ideas, but to highlight the fact that the county has not performed as strongly as the sum of its parts from an economic development perspective. But our parts are as strong and as significant as any other jurisdiction in the country. And I don't want to lose sight of that either. We talk about the changing demographics of the county and the challenges that creates. That creates more opportunities than challenges. I mean, we have a global economy that's increasingly globalized, and we have a community, business community and consumer community and worker community that speaks the languages of, that lives the cultures of, that looks like and understands the culture of the world and the languages of the world and the innovations of the world. That is a huge asset that we can build on in a time when people are really focused on businesses that have a purpose. We have the most purpose-driven community on earth. And so the question is, what are we going to do with this? And can we coordinate a county council, a county executive, a Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, and all of our businesses together to be able to build an economy and a business support network that is as strong as the people and the businesses that are part of it. And that, I think, is the challenge before us. That is not a negative, it's a positive. And I think almost any other jurisdiction in the country would love to have the challenges that we face, because the problems that we have in the economy pale in comparison to the possibilities that we have to solve them. And COVID proved that with the cracks that were shown, but also the capacity to fill those cracks, to meet those needs. And I think we can take this unique moment in time that we have coming out of this public health emergency, and we can use it to really build a stronger, more resilient, more inclusive economy for everybody. And that's going to start with listening to not only the folks who are here today, which is really helpful, but the folks in the broader community as well, to make sure that we're lifting everybody up as part of it. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Council Member. I'm glad we're at this point. We are all hearing that I think we all believe the prosperity Montgomery County's enjoyed in the past is not inevitable. We've been falling behind for years. I'm glad we're hearing comments about tough love and needing improvement. And I fully agree with Councilmember Friedson about our unrealized and unoptimized assets. I'm not surprised hearing this coming from my colleagues on the council. They've all been leaders and feel passionately about this topic. So I'm eager to hear from the second panel. They're all VIPs in this county. I know you all have a perspective to share. Some of you have conclusions from a recent report to mention, but I'd urge you to do what you can to quickly also respond to the critique that you heard from these stakeholders this morning as well.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Just do you mind? Ms. Davis had her hand up for about 40 minutes.
Oh.
Maybe if we can just let her say one thing as we close and move to the next panel.
Thank you. I have 8 things written down as potential action items. I'm just going to send them to all of you.
Great.
But the one thing I do want to say is, let's not let time and crisis be the enemy of equity, because crisis and moving quickly do not favor equity. You actually have to stop, slow down in order to be inclusive. And even in the pandemic, while we did a good job responding, we had instances where people went to the people they knew. We passed over normal procurement processes. So let's not let time and crisis be the enemy of equity. And I'm going to send you 8 things.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you, Councilmember Jawando. Okay, first up is, if he's still here, Chairman Anderson from the Planning Board. Chairman Anderson. The floor is yours. Let's everybody try to take like 3 minutes. We'll still be a little bit over, and hopefully we can get to the next thing somewhere on time, somewhere close on time. Chairman Anderson? Wave if we should come back to you. Okay. Ms. Godwin is here, the President and CEO of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. Gigi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Hucker, and thank you, members of the County Council. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. There's so much to say. It's a big topic, and I'm glad that the County Council is addressing it, and you brought together 2 great panel. The first panel was fantastic, and I'm looking forward to hearing what all of my colleagues on the second panel have to say. But I have to say something. Many of you have known for a very, very long time, and others not so much. But I just wanted to say that economic development is very important. Personally, I grew up in Gary, Indiana. I'm the daughter of an immigrant. English was my mother's 4th language. And I am passionate about not taking things for granted, because in Gary, Indiana, the steel industry failed, and so did the hopes and dreams of so many people who were born and raised there and live there. And so I appreciate the remarks that many of the council members have made about not taking things for granted and the need to act and to continually improve. And I do think that I like the elementary school grading better. So I think that was a good idea. I did want to say there were some very good suggestions made by the panelists, the first panelists. I wanted to comment on a few of those, if I may. I wanted to say that I particularly appreciated the remarks about using a state and federal standards for contracts decisions and streamlining so many processes. Many of you know the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce. What you might not know is that the Chamber's membership is 82.6% of our members are small businesses as defined, and we use the federal standard of under 100 employees. But that's true for every chamber and almost every business organization in the United States. I also wanted to, many of you know this about us, but we also are the home of the Veteran Institute for Procurement. This is a program we've worked on for over 10 years. It's in its 11th, going on 12th year. And we've graduated. It started as an idea. Senators Cardin and Van Hollen were very supportive. The goal was to train veteran-owned small businesses in federal contract compliance. Why did we do that? We started being interested in it because here in Montgomery County, according to Bloomberg Government, Montgomery County, Maryland is #1 in the nation for small health IT firms that sell directly to the federal government. That's because we're the home of HHS and the related agencies, NIH and FDA and so forth. That's a huge driver, and it's, as a result, influenced much of what our county chamber is focused on, which is the federal contracting opportunities. I want to mention to you that we keep very good data on our VIP program because of all the federal data collection processes, which I think, frankly, can be helpful to the county. And a number of the first panelists recommended having better baselines, better data, so that there were greater procurement opportunities. And I just wanted to say that of our VIP grads, we have our Maryland grads of that program, 72% of them were minority-owned businesses. And then an even higher percentage, 75%, were service-disabled businesses. This is data that is routinely collected when you work with federal contractors. So, we feel like this is important because doing business with the federal government here in Montgomery County and in Maryland is a huge economic imperative. So we're focused on that because we know that that helps a lot of our companies. I wanted to set another context, which was, it was only 3 years ago that the federal government shut down for the longest time it ever shut down in history. And that had a huge impact on businesses, but not only federal contractors. It hurt restaurants. It hurt all kinds of other services that federal folks were not using. So that was something that some of our member companies, small businesses, were still recovering from when the global pandemic hit. So I think we need to see that there's been a long tail of opportunities, but also economic challenges. Barely got out of one and another one happened. I'm concerned about what happens Friday of this week. What is going to happen on the Hill? These are things that our members are concerned about and our community is concerned about. I'm sure every member of the county council is concerned about the federal government continuing to meet its obligations, deal with its debt ceiling. All of those things are real for our businesses here, whether or not you're a federal contractor, because if you aren't one, you're feeding them, clothing them, insuring them, doing something. That's a huge part of our community. That's why our chamber is focused on it. This is why we work with Bloomberg Government to have the best data. I do think that some good recommendations were made on improving what we can do right here in the county. Local Small Business Reserve. I found that interesting because I recall our chamber working on that when I came to the chamber a long time ago in 2003, 2004. The Local Small Business Reserve was not a favorite effort. Was not embraced by the county council originally in those days. It was very, very tough to get that over the finish line. And I was thinking about an expression that was used, which was this operationally conservative reference that was made earlier. But I see great improvement there, but there's needs improvement. And I think you could go a little further in that. I do think streamlining processes, reporting requirements. Those are those all serve as a tax on time for our businesses. If they could align better with federal compliance, I think it could streamline the self-certification that Natalia Luis mentioned. I thought was a very good suggestion. We have long recommended that. We've made some progress at the state level. There were specific suggestions, but I think the big lens is this council's and I think our county government and the work of MCEDC, is absolutely moving in the right direction. We're at an inflection point. We have great opportunities, and I think we're all, appreciating that. And we're here to help, to be a part of it. We've long advocated for the streamlining, for self-certification, for recognizing that if we could align what our local businesses are doing with what the federal government is requiring of them, if our county and state governments could adopt more of those, it would be speed of play for so many of our companies. So I'm happy to be a part of the conversation. I'm always interested in constructive progress and forward motion. And so thank you, President Hucker.
Thank you so much, President Godwin. Since he's joined us, let me call on our Chief Administrative Officer, Rich Madalino. We have other luminaries from the administration here. Daniel Caroma, the Business Liaison Officer, and Director Shetty and Director Padom are here from Procurement and Permitting Services. So they might want to comment on some of the things they've heard as well. But Rich, thank you so much for joining us. You've heard a lot of compliments this morning, also a lot of pain and frustration. Can you tell us what the administration's doing to address those concerns and what the plan is to grow jobs in Montgomery County?
Sure. Thank you very much, Council President Hucker, and your colleagues for giving us this opportunity. At the very first senior management team meeting of the Eldridge administration, the county executive told the story that while I've known him and many of you have known him for decades, I had never heard him tell this story before, but that his first job out of the University of Maryland was working at Montgomery Ward's at Wheaton Plaza, where he worked in the automotive parts unit. He eventually became, I believe, the manager of that department, and then a trainer of managers around Montgomery Ward's. And he went to his bosses at some point and said, we hear from our customers all the time that you need to carry German and Japanese auto parts because there are a lot of customers coming in and asking for those auto parts. And his manager said, nope, all a fad. Japanese and German cars will not last. We only carry American auto parts. And of course, the moral of that story is German and Japanese cars are here and here to stay. And Montgomery Ward's is something that maybe some of you on this call have never heard of before, even though they were once one of the largest retailers in our country. So his lesson from that as a young person is an organization has to learn and constantly grow, which is, considering he is a former elementary school teacher, that Councilmember Friedson's comments about using those grades from our days as young people in MCPS needs improvement would probably be something that he would embrace. He asked that of all of us and of the community, that we are constantly trying to improve. Council President Hucker, you asked me to comment on some of these questions about what's our greatest asset in this community, and there's no question it's the people of the community, the dynamic people that I've heard several of you reference to in the prior panel when I was able to listen. What they talked about was the amazing group of people here, the people that attract then the best talent from around the country and around the world, as evidenced by many of you who are sitting here who are not county natives, who are drawn to this area and this community because it is a wonderful place to own a business, to raise a family, to own a home, to live, to play, to pray. So talent and the talent that we have here and that we are fortunate enough to both import, attract, and develop, as we know from Councilmember Friedson, Councilmember Rice, Councilmember Albornoz, who, like myself, had the opportunity to grow up here. So without a doubt, it is the people of this community that make this really an A+. To go back to a grade, an A+ community. As Ms. Godwin said during her testimony, and as Councilmember Friedson said during his testimony, his comments, you know, when you put ourselves up against other communities around the country and around the world, there are few communities that rival what we have here. The assets, the opportunity, the people. Unfortunately, one of those communities is on the other side of the river, which is always keeping us on our toes to compete with Fairfax County, with Arlington County, and with our partners in this region, because this is truly such an incredible place to be. Our global center of excellence in biotechnology has been the backbone of our private sector economy. Obviously, the incredible federal assets that are here are a backbone to our economy. I'm so glad that Ms. Godwin brought up the VIP program for the veterans, because truly it is helping small businesses not only access the Montgomery County procurement system, but the federal procurement system. If you think we spend a lot of money, obviously the federal government spends a ton of money on its assets throughout this region. And it's getting those people, it's helping businesses get those federal contracts. And as Councilmember Rice well knows, the Maryland Small Business Development Financing Authority, which of course Mr. Wu in his prior service with the state had an opportunity to help lead and manage. Ms. BIDFA, as it's known in state government, is a wonderful resource to help small businesses get the surety bond in order to get the contract with the federal government. So there are tools, and I know as a former state legislator, trying to get some of these state programs to engage in Montgomery County is always a challenge. I know Ms. Godwin has over and over pushed and prodded and pulled to try to get the state to be involved. I know Councilmember Navarro will be actively trying to make sure the state is engaged in helping out Montgomery County. And we have an excellent opportunity with Mr. Wu to make sure Montgomery County businesses know how to access the many programs our state has put together to help small businesses, large businesses, people start businesses, that access to capital that Councilmember Katz talked about. There are ways to do that with the state, and we need to make sure we're constantly prodding and encouraging our state partners to be engaged with us and helping the community. So I could keep going on, but you said hold it to 3 minutes, and I held it to 6.
Thank you. Great. Okay, Mr. Wu is here, the President and CEO of the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. Ben?
Thank you, Council President. I wanted to note that Chairman Anderson is here, and you had called on him earlier, so I would be happy to defer to Casey if you like.
Casey, are you ready now?
I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep, please go ahead. No, you have some data.
I've never worked at Montgomery Ward. However, I did once work at a law firm, and the managing partner of that firm once told me the major challenge of running a law firm is that all of your assets walk out the door every single night, and you have to hope that they're going to come back in the morning. And I think that one of the challenges that we face, and I think Rich alludes to this, is that our major asset is our people. These are people who, in many cases, have a choice. They could live or work anywhere in the country, sometimes even in the world. And our ability to attract and retain those people and give them, in particular, the kinds of places that they want to be, a high quality of life that really makes, and an affordable quality of life, is essential to our economic competitiveness. And that's why I think that I certainly wholeheartedly agree with Councilmember Navarro's observation that what we're looking for here is equity and prosperity. And both those things need to go hand in hand. I want to suggest 2 things that are essential to ensuring a broadly shared prosperity and to keep those people from voting with their feet and leaving. The first is housing. We really have some stars in this administration. I think Chris Conklin is doing a fantastic job with transportation. I think Mitra Pedaweem has done a lot of great work with DPS. I have to be honest, I really think that that this administration needs to confront the fact we need more housing of all kinds at every level of price. And I really don't see why that is so difficult to get consensus on that subject. I wrote a blog post on this a couple of years ago. The cost of living in Montgomery County versus all of our competitors, places like Austin, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the kinds of places that are drawing life sciences jobs, technology jobs, the sort of jobs that we want to come to Montgomery County. The difference in our cost of living between here and those places is almost entirely accounted for by the cost of housing. And that's not just for low income people or middle income people, but even relatively affluent people. So that's my first, I think, central objective, is to try to get everybody on board with the idea we need more housing at every price point. The second thing I'd observe, and I think the administration is doing a pretty good job on this, is getting the transportation infrastructure that we need to support growth, and to do that in an equitable way. And I think rolling out bus rapid transit is the obvious step forward. We're waiting on the Purple Line to get done, but I honestly wish that we could move a little bit more quickly to get some of those BRT routes implemented, particularly in East County, because as a couple of folks, including you, Council President Hucker, Councilmember Navarro, and others have pointed out, the East County really deserves some more focus. There is no reason why there only has to be a focus on White Flint. We have tremendous opportunities in the East County, in White Oak, in Burtonsville, other parts of East County. And honestly, I think I want to say that we do really need to renew the focus on Silver Spring. I know Ben has led some efforts at MCEDC to try to rethink what we can do to increase Silver Spring's competitiveness. But to be absolutely candid with you, I think we also need to focus on public safety, homelessness, some of the other issues that are important. And this is not to say that we want to criminalize homelessness, or we want to engage in some of the discredited practices of policing that have been so justifiably and widely rejected, not only in Montgomery County, but across the country. But we really need to focus on making sure that the quality of life is maintained, even in the places that have recently experienced a renaissance like downtown Silver Spring, so we don't slide backwards. And the last thing I'll say is, I definitely agree with Councilmember Friedsom. Our glass is half empty, it's also half full. We should confront our challenges, but we should also recognize that we are the best place. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the country or the world, and I think all of us on this call feel that way. Working together, I know that we can be a more competitive, more prosperous, and more equitable place in the future.
Thank you so much, Chairman Anderson. Well said. Okay, Mr. Wu.
Well, thank you, Council President Hucker. I'm also joined here by our MCDC Executive Vice President, Bill Tompkins. So just wanted to acknowledge Bill and to offer him a chance to add on and to comment on any questions that get raised. So my main takeaway from this hearing this morning is that if it's not already, economic development must be a county priority. And I think that from hearing the members of the council, that the council members clearly get it, but your constituencies don't fully appreciate that economic development must be the priority for this county for a number of reasons. First, economic development grows jobs. That creates revenues that help sustain and to fund the programs that make Montgomery County what it is and what we're famous for. Also, as Mr. Madaleno said, we're facing competition that's very significant, not just from other innovation-led economic clusters around the country, but also within our region. We're facing significant competition, as well as within our own state. And other jurisdictions are moving forward with a unified process that allows them to be as competitive as possible. And if we fail to come together and work together, then we will inevitably slip behind. And the standing that we have, all of our assets that we want to reach to our full potential will not be realized. You know, I've heard said many times that economic development is a team sport. And so as a consequence, we need to gather together. And one of the things about Montgomery County is that oftentimes people know what Montgomery County is more against than what Montgomery County is for, and where we're going. And so to try to address those concerns, we had the MCDC Economic Advisory Panel led by Norm Augustine and also Darian Pollard with a 20-member team of executives that looked at ways in which we could create that unified consensus roadmap on where we can go. And so they went through and looked at decades of reports and gave priorities to some of the recommendations. And that Connecting the Dots report is just released in October and is a template for where we can all go. And it's designed to be consensus priorities and recommendations that we can all gather around. But we need to show in Montgomery County where we're headed and not just what we're against, because I think that's what is the perception about our county that still continues to plague us. So as this team sport for economic development, we work very closely with the chamber, with Gigi, with a number of people in the business community, as well as the council and the county executive and other stakeholders that are key to where we're going to go. And one of the things that I've been very proud of is how the county has responded back to the pandemic. We faced the greatest global economic devastation of our lifetimes with the COVID-19 virus. And as a result, Montgomery County responded very quickly and also very affirmatively. And Montgomery County provided more grants in direct business assistance than any other jurisdiction in our region. And as a result, we've been able to bounce back and to mitigate the impact. We had in May of 2020 our record unemployment high of 8.6%. We've been since been able to drop it by 3%, but there's still more work that needs to be done. The council and the executive have been real leaders in trying to provide direct business assistance. In MCDC, we try to do our part with $22 million of grants that we gave out to restaurants, to retail. We had our award-winning 3R initiative that was recognized by the Maryland Economic Development Association. We also had our local production fund, telework assistance fund, as well as support for nonprofits. And in each of these business grants programs, we targeted minority businesses to try to make sure that communities that were underserved or underrepresented were aware of these grants. And as a consequence, we've been able to have a very strong participation in these grants. And I think that needs to continue to be a focus of the county business assistance grants. And I'm pleased to say that that's reflected in our numbers, and I believe it's also reflected in the county provided grants as well. So we're coming back, but we know that more needs to be done. And we see in this crisis for the pandemic a great opportunity. And even before the pandemic, I was hired by our board prior to the pandemic, just before the pandemic began. And what I outlined for our board selection committee during my hiring process were a number of steps that we're going to try to do post-pandemic. For example, inclusive economy, trying to create an entrepreneurial ecosystem, also creating a customer service initiative to have greater accountability, and also developing a marketing and branding public-private partnership that will allow us to change the narrative about our business perception in Montgomery County. So these initiatives and these priorities will maintain, and we'll be able to try to do that in the post-pandemic recovery. And we would like at MCDC to be able to work with the council. We've already briefed the executive, and we would like to be able to make sure that as a team, we can continue to address these issues that have been raised today. But let me also just conclude by taking a note as my position as the chair of the Commerce Cabinet for Montgomery County. It's a 14-member entity that is created with agencies that have an impact on economic development. And there have been some tremendous strides that have been made within these agencies to address economic development, to address accountability, and address speed to market. From Ash Shetty over in procurement has been raised, Mitra Padim over in Department of Permitting Services, Casey's speed to market program that planning has done, Asim over at housing, and then also Chris Conklin over at transportation, and several others that have contributed to taking great steps in trying to change the perception, change the narrative, and also reform the process. So let's not overlook the great work that's being done, but we know that we can continue to build upon that. The county executive and the council have, I believe, a clear desire to continue to elevate economic development as a county priority. And we at MCDC look forward to working with the council and the executive to move and strengthen our economy and move it forward.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Tompkins, did you have anything to add, or are we good?
I'll be quick. We are working on the economic development strategy. It is not going to be long. We have 500 pages of reports that have already been done. Housing, transportation, the Thrive Plan, et cetera. We're not redoing that. So one of the things that I think you're going to hear is do what's in the damn plan. There's been a lot of talk about action. The reports are done. The analysis has been done. So when we get to that, take the recommendations and let's put them into action. The other thing that is a big pivot for us, that is no small task, is that historically we have not had the focus on small and local businesses that everybody has wanted. That is in our plan, and I think everybody needs to understand that that is a big pivot. We need to put those resources against a long-term effort. So when you look at the 6 categories that we have, small and local businesses are there. And I also think we need to be comfortable talking about sensitive subjects. As an example, when we talk about minority businesses, it's come up before. There are differences between Black businesses, Latinx businesses, and other businesses. And if you don't understand those nuances and how you have to target and focus on each group, but also work with them collectively and keep the information on how each group is doing, then you can tend to sort of sweep some of that stuff under the rug. And we've got to be more open and honest about how we look at the specific subsegments. A lot more December 31st when we come out with the updated strategy.
Thank you. Sorry, who was next? Move people. Mr. Sesker, sorry, there you are. No stranger to everyone. It's very good to see you with us and with Hartswell Strategies. Please jump in with your recommendations. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I just want to express my gratitude to all of you for this work session and for all the work that you've done over the course of the last couple of years. I know that this has just really been an extraordinary time to be in public service. And as Councilmember Friedson said earlier, you guys were just sort of jumped right in and built the plane while you were flying. I am in a unique position on this panel as somebody who is in the private sector, has worked at the county council, has worked at Mcdc, and has worked at the planning department. So I'm very familiar with a lot of the processes and a lot of the issues and have watched the county economy very closely over the last few years. But as I've moved into the private sector, I've begun watching it even more closely. And what I have seen is a shift from what was, in many respects, sort of a long and steady erosion of the county's economic position within the region to an accelerated decline over the course of the last few years. And I've become increasingly concerned about it and have been raising those issues with everybody here over the course of the last couple of years. I think it is important to understand that economic development is something that involves, is obviously it's multifaceted. People have many different perspectives on it, and you certainly have heard that today from this panel. But I don't think that it is necessary to view economic development as about conflict. I think some of the most important points and salient points that you've heard here today are about these things like the connections between our small businesses and the federal government. And frankly, the connections between our small businesses and our big businesses, the connections between our public sector and our private sector, the connections between real estate and everybody else. All things are incredibly important in economic development. And as an economic development professional and expert, I'm telling you, you cannot view this as a one but not the other sort of solution. Montgomery County over the last decade has literally now fewer wage and salary employees than it did 10 years ago. So, you are not in a particularly good position. And that is not because organizations like Mcdc haven't been doing the sorts of things that all economic development organizations are doing and should be doing. They have been doing those things. And it isn't enough to move the needle. It isn't that Montgomery County doesn't have assets. We all know what those assets are. And frankly, we talk about them a little too much. But, for the record, to reiterate some things that other people have said, obviously location is huge. You're right out, nobody can replace being right outside, the proximity that you have and the access that you have to the nation's capital and to the federal government agencies. You have a tremendous bioscience industry, which obviously is particularly relevant at this very dangerous point in time that we're all in at today. And you have a highly educated and mission-driven workforce that is, and labor force that is incredibly talented, and the sort of labor force that, companies who are looking to relocate anywhere in the world are looking for labor forces just like Montgomery County's labor force. And yet there are fewer business establishments today than there used to be. There are fewer jobs in Montgomery County than there used to be. So I think it is important for us to take a step back and look at what are some of the actual problems. Montgomery County is suffering from, in spite of all of those assets, is suffering from a couple of key challenges that are fundamentally responsible for a significant part of the economic decline that we've seen over the last several years. One is that there are no tenants who want to be or need to be in Montgomery County for large office buildings. And those are the sorts of tenants who bring workforce here. Those are the sort of tenants who workforces go out and buy lunch. They're the sort of tenants who procure things from local small businesses. So that is an important driver of the county economy. And it is not possible, if you are looking for many property owners in Montgomery County, to be able to say, I know who's going to be renting space in my building, because no one is looking to do that. Increasingly, Montgomery County is being separated from the economic center of this region, which is continuing to move farther and farther to the west across the river. And increasingly, as DC builds out, it's becoming more difficult to access the geographic center of the region. So many parts of Montgomery County are just getting more and more remote from the region's economic opportunities to grow, the opportunities to access amenities in a downtown sort of environment. So that is actually making Montgomery County a less valuable place to be. But beyond that, if there are no tenants for office buildings, then there is no pipeline of development. And if there is no pipeline of development, then there is no new building, whether it is a retail building or an office building, for the sort of companies who are on the move, exactly the sort of companies that we want to be attracting to Montgomery County. There's nowhere for them to go because there isn't a building that's going to be ready for them at the time that their lease is up. So on a fundamental level, the biggest challenge that Montgomery County faces is a real estate problem. There are no tenants for the buildings, so therefore nobody builds the buildings. And without the buildings, it is increasingly difficult to find tenants. And as you look through the data and you begin to sort of absorb what it is that is happening in the Montgomery County economy and the extent to which it is diverging from what is happening everywhere else in the region, it is alarming. And it is not for lack of having, people going out and doing business development and talking to companies. It is not for a lack of effort in trying to come up with creative solutions to the businesses that are able to get through to a business development specialist. It is literally that there is no reason to invest in building things in Montgomery County, and without new things being built, there aren't places for people to go. As many people know, there are a lot of size 12 shoes out there, but when you need a new pair of size 12 shoes, you're often looking for ones that fit your feet. And it is much more difficult to find that in the vacant office space of, Class C buildings somewhere than it is to find that in a new development product. So on a fundamental level, those are the problems. And if you're going to address those problems, and I apologize for speaking quickly. I know you guys are in a hurry. I did one time take a Greyhound ride with a bunch of auctioneers when I was little, and I did learn to speak very quickly. So I'll try to move through this with all haste. But on a fundamental level, what I've recommended is a very significant incentive program. And that is not to say that those are investments that should be made instead of the other sorts of things that the county council has done over the course of the last year. That is not to say that these are instead of the sort of focus on sustainability and equity and all the other very, very important topics that you guys have outlined and put together in the council's economic development framework. But this county is at a point in time where the decisions that are being made and have already been made over the course of the last few years are increasingly taking tax revenue off the books, jobs out of the county. And what you need the opportunity cost of that is significant. If you want to be able to continue to afford providing services to increasingly diverse and community with a significant amount of needs, if you want to continue to be able to provide world-class infrastructure, then you are going to need to have that revenue. The opportunity cost of just failing to grow in the same way that you had prior to 2007 is about $37 million a year, which is basically an elementary school. So in order to send a message to both the tenant community and the builder community that what Montgomery County is prepared to do is to really help provide and create that market and that demand for new space, I recommended establishing a very significant incentive fund and publicly advertising it, as Rashern Baker did, several years ago in Prince George's County. They had a very difficult situation in that county for many years, and at this point, they have made tremendous strides over a relatively short period of time. And when they announced the $50 million incentive fund, people took notice. People in the site selection world, commercial broker world, developer world took notice. And that really helped to reposition the county, Prince George's County, and turn it into a more positive direction. I think that what Montgomery County needs to do is announce a very significant incentive fund, $250 to $300 million of incentive fund. Certainly that's not going to be used once. The actual amount of time that it would take to absorb that is fairly significant. But I think that you need to make that statement. Montgomery County is here. We want to make this work. We want to invite people and firms to locate here, and we're opening our doors. And we recognize that the challenge is not simply a challenge of property tax rates or anything like that. The challenge in Montgomery County is that the rents that you're able to achieve in Montgomery County are significantly lower than what can be achieved across the river. That the individual income tax, which is a source of $1.7 billion a year in revenue, is a revenue source that doesn't exist in local governments in Virginia. Site selectors are looking at the overall package of taxes and amenities and as well as rents, and they are telling their clients, and they are telling you unequivocally that this is not a location that they're advising people to locate in. And so by advertising an incentive fund that is very significant, you can have a real impact on what that conversation about Montgomery County is, and you have a real opportunity to influence the kind of growth that you're going to have. So that fund, I recommended a very significant incentive for firms that offer high-paying jobs over $100,000, where the average salary is over $100,000 a year. Those are the firms that create fiscal surplus, essentially, for Montgomery County, that provides the revenue that is needed to pay for the services that you provide to other populations and other service areas. As well as a very significant incentive related to tenant improvements. Because if you are a tenant and you're looking to relocate to Montgomery County, your number one, the first real hard money that you've got to spend is on fitting out that space. And there are a couple of ways of doing it, and obviously it changes a little bit from time to time with market conditions. But the reality is that either is going to get paid for up front, or it's going to get amortized into the cost of the lease. And if it gets amortized into the cost, then what is happening is you're eating into that potential advantage that you've got of the lower lease rates in Montgomery County compared to Northern Virginia. People are eschewing locating in Montgomery County in spite of the fact that lease rates are significantly lower, in spite of the fact that the property tax rate is lower. And I think that what is incumbent upon all of you is to say what we're doing isn't enough. It's not necessarily that we're doing the wrong things. It's that it isn't enough. And in order to incentivize companies who do not need to be in Montgomery County, there is no airport in Montgomery County. There is no port, marine port in Montgomery County. There is no capital in Montgomery County. There is no state flagship university in Montgomery County. No one needs to be in Montgomery County. If you want companies to come to Montgomery County and to take advantage of a workforce that is the envy of the world, you need to make them a business proposition. And that business proposition has to be to offset some of the costs of the high costs of taxation in Montgomery County, Maryland, by incentivizing companies that pay high wages to come to Montgomery County, Maryland, where we can take advantage of that via the income tax, and also to offset some of the initial costs of the tenant improvements, and to reduce lease costs by helping, whether it's the property owner or the tenant themselves, offset the costs of those tenant improvements. So that was the recommendation that I made in that report, and I'm happy to talk, answer any questions that you have. But before I do, I just want to say there were several things said today that I just want to say amen to. Amen to the culture issue in Montgomery County government and to stagnation. Amen to things like, we're tired of asking for reports. We have all the reports that we need. You guys have a lot of information. What we need right now is action that's going to work, and not just more of the same action, because we know that things that Ben at MCEDC and all the good people who are working at MCEDC are doing are the right things. The problem is that without putting the money behind it, it isn't enough.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Sesker. Very well said. Okay. I want to just give Mr. Mandolino an opportunity to respond. There's been a lot of specifics about the county's economic planning and approach. Do you have anything you want to jump in with? And I know you have other staff here. I want to give them an opportunity as well. But Mr. Sesker and other panelists have said a lot.
Sure. I want to thank the panelists who have praised this county government and this county. I mean, across the board, I think everyone is, what I've heard repeatedly from the private sector, from our colleagues in in other public sector organizations, is that, again, this is a great community. This is a community that faces challenges, but it is again always nice to go through and talk about all of the many strengths that we have as a community, and as a learning organization. We know that we have areas where we need to improve, but it's been great to hear the praise of our Director of Transportation, Director of Procurement, Director of Permitting Services, of housing. So again, I want to thank everyone for their strong comments in supporting the county government, and to thank you for setting this up to hear the praise of the administration. So I do want to point out that we have heard several people talk about infrastructure, which is why the county executive is trying to have this conversation about infrastructure. Clearly, when you look at, I think some of the differences, and even Mr. Sesker brought this up about infrastructure. Part of it is the way that Virginia and Maryland have diverged in the way that we operate and fund infrastructure. And so that's why the county executive has a plan before the General Assembly this year, looking for all of you to embrace that, looks to the way Virginia funds infrastructure as potentially a way that Maryland should move forward with. And as a Maryland native, it pains me to say sometimes that there's a better idea on the wrong side of the river, but In this case, they may have come up with a plan that gets revenues, a steady stream of revenues into the infrastructure that creates the groundwork to actually create more economic activity. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about, you heard Casey talk about bus rapid transit, and we should move forward with bus rapid transit quicker. Well, we need the state as an active participant in doing that, but we also need to be able to put up revenues. And unfortunately, in our current structure, we don't wind up with the revenues in a quick enough way to actually help us do these sorts of major infrastructure projects that Virginia has been able to do. So hopefully embracing this plan of coming up with a tax structure like Northern Virginia that provides the stability and the resources to invest in infrastructure will allow us to better compete with our partners in Northern Virginia and to overcome some of the things that Mr. Sesker mentioned about the fact that we don't have a 4-year institution, even though the county executive is pushing for that investment within Montgomery County so that we bring high-level higher education programs into Montgomery County. The state of Virginia is putting $1 billion into Virginia Tech in Arlington County in order to help bring a workforce to Amazon. They're not worried about George Mason and the investment that they've already made in the George Mason campus. They see it as complementary. We need that same focus of putting that sort of, especially in the life sciences and quantum computing, in the relationship between life sciences and computing moving forward. We need that sort of investment. And quite frankly, the Montgomery County cannot go it alone to build our solely our own research institute without the state of Maryland partnering in order to get that done, which is hopefully the Hogan administration has been supportive of economic development opportunities, but certainly the next administration hopefully will embrace the unique opportunities to partner with Montgomery County to move this community forward, because it's not only good for us, but it's also good for the entire state of Maryland.
I think we need a very directed approach. I mean, usually the first step in solving a problem is acknowledging you have one. And when Jerry Weiss took over as superintendent, he said, we have an achievement gap in Montgomery County, and we're going to do these things. We're going to drive toward all-day kindergarten. We're going to get small class size in our Title I schools, and we're going to divide up our schools and put resources where we need them, and we're going to have a unified approach to driving toward a goal. And I haven't seen that in economic development. I'll just say that. Mr. Karoma, I didn't want to skip you over. We're so glad you're here. You've done great work. Please jump in.
No, well, thank you, Council President and members of the Council. Again, CAO Richard Madalino is here, and he's presenting in terms of the administration's position. All I want to highlight is just the tremendous, in terms of work that the small business community has done, especially our micro enterprises. I know many were going from day to day before the pandemic. And not only that, they didn't have the cash reserves, right, in order for them to be able to sustain themselves, or didn't have lines of credit. And so I hear from many and hundreds of businesses who are appreciative of the work of the, the administration and the county council for the many relief programs that you've provided. In fact, I just got a call from a doctor's office where the owner decided to basically not pay herself in order for her to keep her receptionist on the salary. So I just want to know that, I think everybody has said it, that, there's room for improvement. Nevertheless, let's not forget that these micro enterprises, and these are businesses with 5 or fewer employees, are very much appreciative of the work that the county is doing. And without those relief coming to them, clearly they would be out of business today. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues. We've heard about, procurement and the work that have been done in permitting services, DHCA. Listen, county staff have been working to ensure we get this relief program fast to these small businesses. we know how much they need these programs. And so again, I really want to give my hats off to the county employees that have been working sometimes 7 days a week in order for us to get these programs out. But we're not complaining because it's our job. So just want to say that. Lastly, I think the thing that I've heard from businesses is how can the county government be the bearer of good news about what they're doing, right? So how can the county government use platforms like this to talk about, in terms of the good work that they're doing? And I think that could be done. This is a step. I believe county council should be doing more of this, bring in department directors, folks like, our Director Shetty, who can talk about, for example, understanding the bills that you guys have passed and how those bills have been implemented. So I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity and thank you for letting me speak.
Mr. Sesker, you want to jump in?
Well, I just wanted to make one other point that I forgot to mention earlier, and I think it is so critical to understanding how important this moment is. And that is that every year in the office market in this region, about 10% of leases come up for renewal. At this point, based on my most recent calculation, about 40% of Montgomery County office jobs can be done entirely from home. So the risk every year over the next several years, if Montgomery County doesn't take drastic action soon to reposition itself, is that every year you're going to be losing somewhere up to potentially 4% of occupied office space. Now, we're already seeing that, just as we did coming out of the last recession, when many companies decided to stay in Montgomery County but reduce the size of their footprint significantly. Choice Hotels, as an example, recently announced that they're moving out of 198,000 square feet and into 105,000 square feet. And I would imagine that that's going to be, generally speaking, fairly consistent with what we're going to see over the course of the next couple of years. So the moment is now, while companies are deciding whether or not they even need to have any real estate footprint at all. This is the moment where Montgomery County, if you're going to be able to get tax revenue from a commercial base, tax revenue that you very much need to provide the services that you provide to this amazing county, the time is now to actually make sure that you still have a commercial base. Because if you wait a couple of years, you're going to have less occupied space. And the value of those office buildings is dependent on the income that they produce. So, just like I believe I calculated at one point earlier this year that Montgomery County is losing somewhere, I think it was like $300,000 or $400,000 a year just from the vacancies in the Discovery building. So this is a very real issue. And while inflation and a lot of one-time federal money may obscure it, the moment is right now. The office market is changing. It's changing rapidly. It's changing significantly. People are deciding that they don't need to be working in an office. And every month, every year, lots of new significant leases are coming up for renewal. And people are making decisions about what to do with those leases. And those decisions, we have to make those decisions hard for them. Because in the absence of action, we're making those decisions easy for them.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a real wake-up call. I know Director Shetty and Podem have been waiting, not waiting patiently, but they've been listening. They're two of the bright spots in the administration. I don't know if they had any things they wanted to jump in and respond to some of the comments that they've heard. Hi, Mitra.
Yeah, good afternoon. I think it's a few minutes after lunch. I support all the development in the county, and DPS has gone through tremendous change to support the development. Since I have been started, we have heard that we need to change the culture within the PS to be more customer oriented and be more focused and responsive to the need of our customers. We have done a lot of changes in regard to our organization, and we have aligned our first line employees under one division that to be focused to answer in a timely manner to our clients. At the same time, as we have discussed before, the biggest change that, in my opinion, and also many of my staff in here, that would be a game changer for the whole county is changing our system. We heard many of developers that they were telling us that Montgomery County is a difficult place to get permit. It takes a long time. We have come a long way, and we will continue doing so with the new system that it comes online. Hopefully by early summer of this year, we're going to be most responsive to our smaller businesses and our residents, our diverse residents, because we're going to streamline the process, and we are going to make it much user-friendly and easier for our clients to be online. And we're going to have all our permits online. That means that although our front office is open to do business and we welcome you there, but if you choose to submit your permit online, you can do so. And we would be available for any questions, and everything would be online. They could see the comments, and they could be and they're able to schedule inspections online, and they can print their permits online. So that would be a game changer. And I'm here available for any other questions or any other improvement that any of you think that we could work and we could make it happen.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for everything you're doing. Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. We really are pretty much out of time, so I'll just make a very brief comment or two. But I want to thank the panel. It was very powerful. Both panels have been very powerful. Mr. Sesker, you're well known to us all, and I think we have a lot of confidence in what's behind your comments to us, and the integrity of the research, and really what is the wake-up call that you have been issuing. And it's incumbent upon us to act. This is, as you said, a moment. It is a dire moment. It is, you've highlighted in your report how Virginia is starting to essentially build a research industry in life sciences. And you highlight the possibility that if trends continue to be the way that they have been, life sciences will gradually move to Virginia. So we have to face up to reality as a county and take action. And I love the emphasis on taking action. I don't want to, get into too much back and forth, but I just want to say, the county executive, when the report came out, called it garbage. And I just think it is endemic of his refusal to embrace what we are actually facing as a community and what the consequences are for us. And, we need to be driving forward with an agenda. We know what we have to do. He's opposing 5G, talking down East County, vetoing our tax incentives for economic development, talking about tax increases, while not minding the store with how we spend our funding at home. And it's just very problematic. But I love the Connecting the Dots report. It really reflects the work we've been doing at Fed with Mcdc, and Chairman Rice and I have been working, and Councilmember Jawando and everyone has been working on the talent pipelines. And I think there's, a lot of great thinking in that. And, what we need to be doing is going with what we know. So we've talked about a small business agenda, the first half of this conversation. Second half of this conversation is about other strategic industries, life sciences, technology, hospitality, how to invest in programs, take advantage of opportunities, and build on our strengths. And Now that's what we're working on at Fed. That's what we need the county executive to be working on. I would love to not hear about White Flint much anymore. And, I want to hear about the roads around White Flint, not the metro property. We have a 4-year university here. It's called the Universities at Shady Grove. And maybe instead of fighting with the governor, we could have the executive convincing the governor to bring more investment to the Universities at Shady Grove and build those programs there where we have thousands of students and we could have thousands more, STEM degrees that will really fuel our progress. So here to all that we've heard about changing the culture and getting to yes and taking action. We know what we need to be doing. I think Jacob Sesker's point about our lack of being competitive with our economic incentives is crucial. We've passed a number of economic incentives at the council, faced a lot of resistance in doing that. We need to step up what we're doing to be competitive. And if we don't, our basic quality of life is just not sustainable. That is the core issue here, is what we love about this county, the great parks and schools and libraries and wonderful people who move here from all over the world. Our cultural institutions, our churches, our synagogues, is all of that sustainable without a growing economic base? Or as more people move to Virginia, because that's where the jobs are, we gradually hollow out and wither on the vine. That's our meta challenge, and we've got to take action to keep things going. And if we can, then small business and large business harmoniously working together to bring jobs and progress to our families. Ultimately, that's what it's all about. The benchmark of success is the health and well-being of our families, our community, our residents, and it relies upon economic development. So thank you, Mr. Council President, for convening this conversation today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Deno. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Grace Deno with the Office of Procurement. Our director, Mr. Shetty, was on the call earlier and he had to leave for the other meeting. I just want to thank you for all the panelists for your great feedback, comments, and suggestions related to procurement process or our accessibility, equity issues. We are aware of them and we have been continuously working to improve all of that. I do want to take this opportunity to do a promotion for our annual virtual procurement fair that will be held on December 15th in the morning. We have 3 great panels. Last year we had about 600 participants, so we're hoping to get more vendors to join us this year. And also we have a monthly open house that we hold. Since COVID-19, we have been doing it virtually also. It's the 3rd Wednesday morning of each month at 10 a.m. And all of these links are on our procurement website on our homepage. And lastly, I do want to give you some statistics for the last couple years so that you will have an idea in terms of our purchasing toward local and small and minority businesses. Again, we are continuously working toward giving more opportunities to these local small minority businesses. In FY21, we spent about $200 million toward minority-owned businesses, and that counts for 26.8% of eligible spending. And actually, despite of COVID-19, that was the 20-year high for the minority spending in the last 20 years. And then toward local small business reserve program, we spent about $219 million, and that counts for 27.2% toward the eligible spending. And lastly, about 40% of our contractors every year are first-time contractors. So that's another benchmark we look at when we do our annual report. We want to make sure that we're not always contracting only with incumbents. We are always looking for more competition and new vendors. Thank you very much. And I've taken down a lot of notes from the panelists. Thank you
Great.
for the information.
Thank you. Many of us keep getting very positive feedback about both you and Director Shetty for sure. Thank you. Ms. Davis, do you have something really quick before we wrap?
My question was, can someone from the executive branch say who is responsible for the disparity study and when is it going to be done?
I can answer that question. So the new disparity study is scheduled very soon. We have got the budget and the county attorney's office have drafted the solicitation. It is being reviewed by the procurement, county attorney's office, as well as risk management in finance. So once all the review is done, the solicitation is expected to be on the street earliest in December, latest in January.
And does it have any equity requirements in terms of who gets hired to do the work?
Yes. All our solicitations will have a minority, female disabled requirement, and this will be a professional services, so the goal would be 19%.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Ms. Davis, you probably know the administration missed the 2019 deadline and then the 2021 deadline, so we had to put in legislation and a supplemental appropriation. The council did to require the county attorney and the procurement director to conduct the study. So now that's moving forward under a third deadline.
Amen.
Yeah, it's very, very important, and we can't lose that program. I want to thank all the panelists today. This was really insightful and productive. It's clear that I think we all probably agree there's we grade ourselves, it needs improvement. I don't want the conversation to end today. We've established, again, the council has a comprehensive platform that can help us make great strides forward. I think we should measure our progress against the four pillars there. Very much looking forward to EDC's comprehensive economic development strategy. I hope this discussion today will help put that in context. We have lots of unaddressed questions. We will been gathering them up, and we can forward them in a letter to the administration for a response and share them with everyone here. Looking forward to follow up with your comments, Ms. Davis, and anybody else is welcome to send us feedback to follow up. Thank you all so much and stay in close touch with us. We very much appreciate your feedback.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Shop local.
Shop local. Okay, so colleagues, can we move to the pay grievance special appropriation and get done by 1, I hope?
Mr. Council President.
Yes, Mr. Reamer.
Apologize, but if that's what we do, I've got a number of students who have been taking time to join us for the proclamation at 12:30. I don't know how to do. Yeah. Anyway, we wouldn't be able to do that.
Can we take that up after public hearing?
Yeah, I think that would be preferable certainly from my perspective.
Take up the hazard pay item. That's okay with me.
Continue with the agenda again at 1:30. I think would be certainly my recommendation as one of your colleagues. But
we put it after the public hearing because we have witnesses coming in at 1:30.
Correct.
We'd have to. Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. Okay.
If we can, if there's no comments on consent calendar and you can vote on that quickly so that we have to place ads. So that's the reason to try and get that done right away.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll delay item, I thought that was 3B. Can I get a motion in support of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Councilmember Friedson moves. Councilmember Novato seconds. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That's
aye.
Unanimous among all those present. Terrific. Okay. Enjoy your lunch. We're looking forward to the presentation. Thank you, Councilmember Reamer.
Hello. It's good to see you. Good afternoon.
I'm not mobile, but not local.
A place where we have all done a Zoom, and more than one.
Exactly.
All right. Super. Well, we'll give it a moment for everyone to gather, and then we'll ask the council IT staff to count us down, and then we will proceed. I see we've got a nice group of participants on.
It looks like all the three.
Great. We can invite everyone who is reading or receiving a proclamation to please turn on the cameras if you are so inclined. And frankly, the more cameras on, the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. So, okay, great. Well, I think we can proceed here. So, Equan, is that you today? I see that it is.
Yes, we are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Terrific. Well, thank you, everyone. We are now going to have a special presentation and a proclamation for the ongoing work of our community and its effort, our effort as a community to remember, to understand, to embrace our true history, and to think about, envision, and work towards a better future. Very specifically, we're going to have a proclamation today for the work of our Office of Human Rights and our Commission on Remembrance and Reconciliation, and specifically the Reconciliation and Remembrance Month that we are in today, the last day of in November. And we're going to get a chance to hear about the amazing essay contest that our Montgomery County Lynching Memorial Project has conducted. And we're so excited that we've got a lot of students here joining us today, and we're going to even get a chance to hear the winning entrants read a selection from their essay. So let me start by introducing myself. I'm Councilmember Hans Reamer. I'm one of your 4 at-large council members, joined today by Councilmember Will Jawando, also one of your 4 at-large council members. And there perhaps it may be other council members who will join us, but Councilmember Jawando and I today are leading the proceeding. Oh, great. Welcome. Councilmember Glass, Councilmember Friedson. Glad you're here. So today is substantially about commemorating Remembrance and Reconciliation Month, which is a way that our commission that the council created in 2018, Commission on Remembrance and Reconciliation, has brought forward as an opportunity for us to sort of institutionalize and continue ongoing the work of that we are engaged in here together. Brian Stevenson is the icon of our movement here. He's the author of Just Mercy and in many ways, the intellectual leader of so many of the ideas and organizational strategies and partnerships that we are engaging in. And he likes to say that to change the future, we must confront the past. And I have personally found it an endless journey to confront the past of this country. And, you know, it's one that is so important. I often am reminded that after World War II, Germany, which had committed atrocities of epic proportion, made a very sincere and kind of public effort to not bury the past, to not have a compromise with the agents of that horrific, atrocity and genocide, but instead to be public about what they had done and to keep that story as part of their lives and their history and what their narrative as a people, in order to never go back, to teach the lesson and ensure that the lesson is passed through generations. This country, of course, did nothing like that whatsoever after slavery. Rather, the country really engaged a compromise with the agents of slavery, the whole edifice that had been built to support it, and went forward from that in many ways, sweeping it under the rug and pretending that the Civil War wasn't about slavery. And this county was part of that history. And all of this country was part of that history. But this county had a system of essentially apartheid, a racial caste system, and the county government was upholding that in numerous ways. The private and public sectors all upholding that in numerous ways. And one of the ways that it was upheld was through violence, through racial terrorism. And lynchings were some of the specific acts. Of course, they were very mundane day-to-day acts, but lynchings were the very public acts of racial terrorism that sent the message of what this system was. And I think it's very relevant. It's more than symbolic. It's relevant and real that the county council's building today is on the same land where once stood the county jail, where several men were abducted. John Diggs Dorsey and Sidney Randolph were abducted from that jail, and they were lynched not too far from the present day location. And as part of our work with the Equal Justice Institute, we should have a memorial to our past and to the phenomenon of lynching, and frankly to the legacy of people seeking to overcome that horrible caste system that was upheld by our county government. And many of us believe that the land where the council is today would be a marvelous location for such a thing. So we are all working together. It's exciting to see the work of the commission bringing students to, upholding the student voice, and looking forward to hearing that. We're going to now have a very short video presentation, a 4-minute video, and then I'm going to pass it to Councilmember Jawando, and he is going to present a proclamation, and then we will continue passing it to Director Stowe and Jason Green, and we will introduce Deborah DeMille-Wagman, who will get into the essay contest, and then we will proceed into announcing the winners of the essay contest. So thank you everyone for being here today, and I would like to now turn it to Mike Springerth to present the video about the work of the Remembrance and Reconciliation Commission.
For those that don't know, EJI is a human rights law office working out of Montgomery, Alabama, to represent the poor, the incarcerated, and the condemned in our state jails and prisons. About 30 years ago, Attorney Brian Stevenson actually came to Montgomery, Alabama from Georgia to begin work in Alabama because there were a quarter of executions that were happening all across the country that were centralized right in the state of Alabama, and to give them adequate legal counsel.
We gather here in memory of Mr. John Diggs Dorsey and Mr. Sidney Randolph, who were taken from this very spot and murdered by 2 lynch mobs, one in 1880 and one in 1896. Today, we will walk the approximate route of the lynch mobs and stop at locations along the way.
You're going to stop at points along the way.
of this memorial walk, I want you to think about again. How do we now see where we are here in Montgomery County today? What do we think about that moves us to a different place so that the history for which I'm speaking of today never gets repeated ever again?
Lynching, under any circumstances, is deplorable. It is a crime which undermines the foundation of civil government and its practices.
You know, I took part in the Remembrance Walk earlier today. What must it have been like for the Black church in this community to likely have one of their own lynched?
Randolph's body, after the lynching, remained hanging. It was, according to some reports, actually put on display to the public.
As a symbol to any Black person that ever tried to step outside of the racial hierarchy and order of the time.
When I found out about the victims of the lynchings in this county, it really brought it home to me that here on this property, on this land where we're standing now, the history of our own role in upholding a social system of injustice and of racial terrorism is not a history that people learn or that people know. But hopefully today, we can be more optimistic than we were before.
And listen, somebody's calling my name.
We will begin by saying the names of those being remembered today. Mr. John Diggs Dorsey. Mr. John Diggs Dorsey. Mr. Sidney Randolph. Mr. Sidney Randolph.
Our soil collection project comes under that umbrella of our community remembrance project and our race and poverty initiative. And the soil is the blood of those who labor through the indignation of slavery. In the soil is the sweat of those who had to endure the embarrassment and humiliation of Jim Crow segregation in the Deep South. But also in the soil is the opportunity for new life, the opportunity for growth. And our soil collection experience allows people to understand the circumstances of the individuals who were lynched in the community.
That this soil will serve up to remind us of our responsibility to understand our history and to work to repair and heal the damage of the past by acting in the present. The Montgomery County Lynching Memorial Project, a local grassroots organization, and Equal Justice Initiative Community Remembrance Project, is collecting soil near the sites where Mr. John Diggs Dorsey and Mr. Randolph were lynched to add to the collection at EJI's Legacy Museum.
I encourage you all to visit our museum and one day see this jar of soil now from Mr. Randolph and Mr. Diggs Dorsey in our museum as a symbol of your commitment to ensuring this history is not repeated.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that video presentation about that history that is still very much with us. Councilmember Joando.
Thank you, Councilmember Reamer. Appreciate working with you and your partnership and leadership on this Remembrance and Reconciliation Commission. You know, it's a every time we talk about this, I'm reminded of how we are just in a present day fight to tell the truth. When we memorialized and we had the beautiful art product that was beautiful and sad and emotional and all of those things that you feel when you talk about the history of our country and the history of the county and how we are inextricably linked and tied and a part of that history. You know, the state that Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass ran away from, the state that had just as many Confederate soldiers as it did Union troops. And The fact that the building I work in, you and I and our colleagues work in today, is the building where 2 African-American men were dragged out of and lynched. And the system that we are sworn to uphold and protect as members of the county council to represent residents and improve their lives. Part of that government, our county government, offered up or held very little resistance, and there was never accountability, as is the case with lynchings, for the murder of these individuals. And how today, right now, as we have the 1619 Project book out, a New York Times bestseller, hundreds of thousands of copies sold. You have U.S. senators and school district members from across the country and others who are seeking to deny the truth and not allow the story of our history to be told. And this is unfortunately not an uncommon playbook. We've seen it before. There have been other efforts like the People's History of the United States and other books that have sought to lift up the marginalized and oppressed and murdered voices of our country's history. And we are in our own fight right now to tell that story and to tell that truth, not just because that's the right thing to do, because it is, but because it's connected to where we are today. The systems and structures we operate within today were built in this time period. And lynching, the public act of domestic terrorism, that was a corporate celebration for many in our country. I often remind people that the U.S. post system had to stop delivering postcards for a period of years in the 1800s because there were too many postcards of lynchings being sent through the U.S. Post Service. That's how prevalent of a practice this was in the United States. But very few people know that history. And we must know it because where we are today, the health outcomes, the economic disparities, the housing disparities, the educational disparities that we are living with right now have a direct line to the system of chattel slavery and Jim Crow and domestic terrorism in the form of lynching and other tools that is playing out right now. We all gasped, myself personally, we all had a sigh of relief, but also sadness in the case, the verdicts of 2 cases last week in the Rittenhouse case and in the Ahmaud Arbery case, which is clearly a legacy of, you can't look at what happened to Ahmaud Arbery and not think of Emmett Till. And the, systematic hunting down and murdering of someone because they were seemingly in the wrong place at the wrong time or had offended somebody or had done something to someone that they shouldn't have because of their racial caste system. And we're dealing with that today. So we must learn from our history. And I really appreciate Councilmember Reamer and Councilmember Rice and all of our colleagues that we're bold enough here in this county to not run away from it, to not turn away, and to tell the history so that we can improve our present and chart a better future. And I'm so proud of our students, and I'm looking forward to seeing their readings and representations today. And I'm just excited about the memorialization and the work of the commission that we're here to honor today with this proclamation, which I'll read, and just want to thank everyone for their continued work because there's a lot to do, and it is under assault, and it's not happening everywhere. But we're telling the truth here. So I will just briefly read this proclamation and then turn it over, I think, to Director Stowe, who's accepting. He receives a lot of proclamations for us because he does a lot of great work, but he'll be the official acceptor of this proclamation. All right, here we go. The Montgomery County Council proclamation. Whereas the Remembrance and Reconciliation Commission, composed of community leaders, was established in 2019 to help bring the county together, to promote a better understanding of our history. And whereas Montgomery County's history includes policies and actions by community members to uphold unjust outcomes rooted in white supremacy and racial terrorism. This system was maintained through the threat of violence, demonstrated most vividly by at least 3 lynchings in the late 1800s. The victims were Mr. John Diggs Dorsey, Mr. Sidney Randolph, and Mr. George Peck. And whereas the Remembrance and Reconciliation Commission has, in partnership with the County Lynching Memorial Project and other community organizations, held soil collection ceremonies and a pilgrimage walk recognizing the 3 known victims of lynching in the county. And whereas during the month of November, the Commission will partner with organizations like Montgomery County Lynching Memorial Project to host events for the community. Scheduled events have included a public arts demonstration, a museum exhibit, a high school student essay contest, which you'll hear from today, keynote speakers, and a documentary film screening. And whereas the Commission will continue working with community partners and the Equal Justice Initiative to develop a deeper understanding of the county's history of racial injustice, to address current questions of social injustice and equality toward truth and reconciliation. And whereas the Commission and community will continue working together to establish an appropriate memorial to the victims of lynching in partnership with the Equal Justice Initiative. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby recognizes November as Remembrance and Reconciliation Month, and shall highlight the Commission's work in providing a platform for stakeholders to review the county's past in order to move toward greater equity and social justice in the future. Presented on this day, the 30th of November in the year 2021, signed by myself, Councilmember Reamer, and our Council President, Tom Hucker, on behalf of the entire Council. So, Mr. Stowe, Director Stowe, I turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Jawando, and to all members of County Council, Councilman Bremer and Councilman Rice, your leadership in this particular effort, and all of the council members. We want to just, on behalf of the Remembrance and Reconciliation Commission, Jason Green, our illustrious chairperson, thank you. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the ongoing efforts of trying to bring truth to Montgomery County. And having us actually deal with it in a reflective kind of way, but also in a resolute kind of way. Martin King said that hate paralyzes life, love releases it. Hatred confuses life, he goes on, but love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life, but love illuminates it. At the end of all this is our goal to figure out a way to move beyond these incidents of terror and of hate and of fear to a place where we, in fact, encounter the love we have for each other in our own way, in our own wrapping that God has given all of us, simply to be a part of this community and be able to endure all it has to offer. That ultimately is our goal as we look at these very horrific kinds of incidences that have occurred over the lifetime of this great community. But it is our goal, and certainly I believe the council embraces this, as well as the administration with Mark Elrich and all those who are part of that team as well, that there is something better out there, and we can reach it every single day with all of our efforts. So I look forward to hearing from our students who have, I think, put so much time and energy in their essays, and I look forward to hearing what they have to say. And I hope we all will listen to what they have to say as well, because they become sometimes our greatest teachers. And so we salute them for their efforts and for their involvement. And again, on behalf of all of the folks involved with the Remembrance and Reconciliation Commission, I'm not going to forget you, Jason Fasto. Thank you, sir, as well, for all that you do. But thank you so much for all of the work that's being done and all of our volunteers who work so hard as commission members to do this great work. So I accept this proclamation on their behalf, and we'll end with this quote also from MLK, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It may be true that the law cannot make a man love me, but it can keep him from lynching me. And I think that's pretty important. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Stowe. Mr. Milwagman.
I just want to say their names one more time because I don't think they can be said enough. Mr. George Peck, Mr. Sidney Randolph, and Mr. John Diggs Dorsey. And I began with the names because that's why the Montgomery County Lynching Memorial Project, or MOCOLAMP as we're called, came to be. We are a grassroots organization committed to educating people about the history and impact of racial terrorism. You're also a coalition member of our parent organization, the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project. The Equal Justice Initiative and Mocha Lamp partnered to sponsor the essay contest whose winners are being celebrated today. In the essay prompt, we challenged Montgomery County Public High School students to think about the impact of racial injustice and its continuing legacy, connecting the past with the present. The contest would not have been possible without the generous support of EJI, particularly Bree Lampkin and Elliot Spillers, who was in the video, and we are grateful to them and the County Council for recognizing and celebrating the winners. I'm really happy to announce the 10 contest finalists, and Councilmember Reamer will list the winners, but we'll begin with, this is in alphabetical order, Nicolette Abrams, an 11th grader at Magruder High School for The History of Unequal Access to Education in America and Montgomery County. Callista Ejupong, a 10th grader at Sherwood High School for March for Racial Injustice. Amen Bustillo, a 12th grader at Magruder High School for Islamophobia, the forgotten problem caused by others. Danielle Kaliboatang, a 9th grader at Montgomery Blair High School for The Echoes of Hatred. Anderly Maradiaga Posos, a 9th grader at Albert Einstein High School for My Perspective on the Horrific History of Lynchings in America. Mila Mohoto, a 10th grader at Bethesda Chevy Chase High School for Silencing Voices. George Obongo, an 11th grader at Northwest High School for Racial Injustice in Healthcare. Rachel Smith, an 11th grader at Magruder High School for Texturism and the Malice Against Tight Coils. Sierra Stubbs, a 12th grader at Richard Montgomery High School for Rewriting the Narrative on Racial Terror. And Allison Hsu, a 10th grader at Walter Johnson High School for Building a New Era of Racial Justice. Councilman Reamer?
Thank you so much. All right, it's my privilege to be able to announce the winners. So our first group will be the honorable mentions, and each of them will receive a signed copy of Just Mercy, which is a very special volume that I know you'll keep, treasure, and pass on to your kids. So our 4 honorable mentions are Callista Ejapong, Amen Bustillo, Mila Mohoto, and Anderly Maradiaga Posos. Congratulations. Thank you so much for participating, and good luck. And we'll look forward maybe to working with you on this topic in the future. Now I'm going to read the winners in the scholarship awards. So just amazed and excited that this initiative has been able to offer scholarship funds, which I think is very much related to our mission of building a better future and helping our young people with their opportunities. So not only will our place winners receive a signed copy of Just Mercy, but our 6th place winner will receive a $500 scholarship, and that is Danielle Coley-Bautang. Congratulations. Our 5th place winner will also receive a $500 scholarship, and that is Allison Hsu. Our 4th place winner will receive a $750 scholarship, and that is Rachel Smith. And our 3rd place, 2nd, and 1st place winners, we're going to hear excerpts from their work. Our 3rd place winner is George Obongo, and George will receive a $1,000 scholarship. Our 2nd place winner is Nicolette Abrams, and she will receive a $1,250 scholarship. And our 1st place winner is Sierra Stubbs, and she will receive a $2,000 scholarship. So first of all, congratulations to our finalists and everyone who participated. We are so grateful for your initiative and really just excited about the success here. So now I'd like to ask our top 3 essay finalists to read the passage of their selection from their work, and we'll start with our 3rd place winner, George Obongo.
One solution to encourage equity in healthcare and correct vaccine hesitancy among the African American community is to address the historic racial injustices in healthcare. The U.S. government should acknowledge and apologize for the Tuskegee syphilis study and pay restitution to the aggrieved families and their descendants. In addition, instituting a Truth, Justice, and Reconciliation Commission, TJRC, will not only publicize the shameful injustice, but also discourage a repeat of such targeted racial discrimination in healthcare. The TJRC model has been previously used successfully in South Africa to promote equity. Additionally, addressing implicit racial bias requires the teaching of current medical students about the implications of racial bias, unethical human experimentation, and biased allocation of healthcare resources. Future healthcare professionals should be trained to adhere to the ethical principle of justice and fairness, irrespective of race or ethnicity. Lastly, training more African American doctors and nurses with similar lived experiences of their patients adds to the overall quality of healthcare. From a cultural standpoint, whenever I go to the ER in distress, I communicate my medical experiences better with doctors and nurses who talk just like me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, George. Great work. Really excited to follow your success going forward. And our second place winner, Nicolette Abrams. Ms. Abrams.
Despite the ongoing fight for the last 70 years to end unequal access to quality education for African American children, currently 9 million African American students in the United States attend disadvantaged and underfunded schools based upon where they live. Creative solutions for a modern-day educational system are vital in the effort to overcome the challenges our nation faces today. No problem can be solved through ignorance or the failure to confront the past. Everyone needs to be taught the history of injustice, even within our own local communities, in order to understand the challenges of today and tomorrow. I tend to be the only African American student enrolled in many AP classes in a school that is comprised of almost 80% minority students. I do see a possible solution for this problem within my own school, Colonel Zadok Magruder. Magruder offers the only aviation program in the county. The aviation program is open to students who do not live in the Magruder district. If we could implement more specialized programs in all Montgomery County high schools open to students despite where they live, students from diverse racial backgrounds could attend schools anywhere in the county based upon their academic interests. This move to diversify specialty programs across the board can hopefully work to integrate and provide better academic experiences for all students. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicolette. Like George, you've grappled with some very real, current major policy issues. Thank you so much. And our first place winner, Sierra Stubbs. Sierra, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. Truth is a fragile concept that has been manipulated, suppressed, and skillfully ignored by those unwilling to revisit the facts that reveal the imperfections within our nation. In the past year, we have experienced revelations of recurring violence against Black lives, alongside the rise of social awareness and misinformation. Despite the efforts from non-oppressed communities to increase awareness, there are still those in powerful positions that continue to seek ways to limit African Americans through legal, economic, and educational barriers, favoring the control of selective narrative framing rather than a complete story. As we remove the rose-colored glasses for American citizens, we have to confront the most potent manner of oppression, racial terror and violence, along with our progression towards social equity. From the burning of the Black Wall Street, threatening voters and intimidating Black communities today, we still experience past racial terror that parallels the domains that we currently face.
Thank you so much. As Councilmember Dewanda was commenting, the fact that we are now engaged in this discussion of whether racism can really be a topic that is taught about in schools. It's just, it's shocking that we are still grappling with such fundamental issues, but it shouldn't be surprising given what you've described about a lot of the power dynamics, Sarah, with your essay. So thank you so much. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you to all of our partner organizations. This has been, again, a month of Reconciliation Remembrance. It's the first Reconciliation Remembrance month that our groups have worked on together, and we know it's not going to be the last. We're looking forward to continuing this work as we go forward. Thank you to everyone who's been involved. I don't know if you had a chance to experience the art presentations a few weeks ago with the displays on the side of the council building and the red brick courthouse. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. It was really powerful, and it is wonderful to see, when the council can create an opportunity, as Councilmember Jawando, Councilmember Rice, and I have done with suggesting we do this commission. But all we can do is the power of suggestion. It takes, amazing people who have a vision and want to get involved to make the actual difference and to make it happen. And to see the fruits of your work here it's inspiring and it's awesome. And I'm just really grateful. Councilmember Jawando, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, so hopefully, can you hear me okay? Yeah, just wanted to say, couldn't agree more. So proud of you, students in particular. All of you have participated. There's such a power in the agency of knowing your history, the history of our country, and connecting it to how we're going to do better and must do better. And so to each of you, very, very proud of work here, and spread the news, and don't, this will be a lifelong journey. Continue to learn, continue to encourage your family members, your fellow students and peers. And that's what we're going to have to all do, because the ongoing the truth. And the truth is, to Director Stowe's quotes earlier, it can often be hard to hear. It's often inconvenient, but it's vital to the functioning of our democracy and for us to achieve the true ideals of our founding. So really excited about the work. This has been a great month. Thank you to the EJI folks. Thank you to MoCo Lamp and all of our folks, Mr. Mill, everyone who has participated, the Remembrance and Reconciliation Commission, Jason Green, Director Stowe. A lot of work yet to do, but this has been a great first official commemoration of this month, and really excited that we're leading the way. So, and thank you to you, Councilman Bremer. It's been great to partner with you on this work.
Thank you. It's an honor, and working together, we will build that better future that we know is possible. So thank you, everyone. Take care.